What is up, Fantasyland? Welcome back to the GOAT District. I'm JD at GOAT District. If you're coming back to us, we appreciate you hanging with us once again. If you're new to the channel, smash the subscribe. We bring you the VIP guests on the weekly. Actually, we're way more than weekly. So smash the subscribe. Make sure you tune in regularly, I should say. Guys, we've been bringing in the top scorers, the top winners in fantasy, the most consistent winners in high stakes. Guys, you don't hear anywhere else. But we also bring in the top analysts in Fantasyland. And tonight we have a special one, Zachary Krueger, Underdog, 4for4, Rotoviz. You hear him on the Best Ball Show. Tonight's a big one, guys. Just like every other GOAT District, put on your tapping shoes, go do some stretching, because we about to dance.
GOAT District, you know the Pope listens. Dynasty, our religion, for the blokes missing. On all of these trades, on all of these plays, on all of these grades. By the end of the day, y'all getting played. So, what you gonna do next? Try to fill up that flex? Send the homie a text? That trash offer's the best? You try to make it complex, then they text you back. Now all of a sudden they don't make any sense. Broaden your horizons, boy. Dynasty's not for the Simons, boy. These trades not for consignment, boy. Respect your opponent, y'all some piranhas, boy. This my advice from me to you. Open up your cute little podcast queue. Search up GOAT District, my dude. Pop it in your ear, man. Y'all know what to do. It's the... And I always be traded. And I always be traded. And I always be trading. Y'all try to betray them, but first you gotta bait them. Fish.
What is up, guys? Welcome back. Shout out to FF Man Bun for the sick lyrics as usual, and for Dan Made Graphics for making them dance for our eyes. Guys, how you doing, man? I mean, how exciting is this time of year? I know we hate injuries, but let's face it, Dan. It's kind of fun if you're in Dynasty, you like to trade, and you're drafting some high-stakes monsters right now.
Right. Yeah. Nobody wants to see the injuries happen. There's no doubt about that. But the shakeups that happen are, I think, good for, a lot of teams, a lot of leagues, just to kind of, if your league is a little stale, these are the kind of things that are going to make it work out a lot better. So make sure you're keeping on top of the news and using that news to your advantage.
And that's all I mean, the ripple effect. We definitely do not want to see anyone getting injured, right? Especially our heroes that we play this game off of. Theo, the ripple effect causing, whether it's Dynasty, Best Ball, any kind of draft or league that you're in fantasy right now, there's an effect. And the guy we have on tonight, I mean, we're going to drop some goodness and help our people know exactly what they need to be doing during this crazy time as we approach the season.
Yeah, it's just crazy. I mean, we just sat down and we drafted with the three of us last night. And then ETN goes down and nobody really thinks anything of the injury. All of a sudden you hear a report after the game that he's in a boot. And then you wake up and it sounds bad. And then you hear it's a Lisfranc and the season is over. Things just escalate very quickly in the preseason. And, like you said, it's a ripple effect. It not only affects ETN, it affects James Robinson. It affects Laviska Shenault. It affects, the Jaguars kind of as a whole. It potentially affects Marvin Jones. I mean, it goes down the list. So you just got to keep rolling with the punches. And, nobody cares if you had a guy that got injured. You've got to be able to recover in fantasy and keep grinding. Losing your 5th-round pick in a redraft league is not going to ruin anyone's season. So it's August. You got to hit that wire. You got to make your team better.
I'll keep throwing it on the table. I won my biggest Dynasty league with Kittle on the sidelines all season last year. So, guys, don't give up, man. Don't give up. Look, maybe a couple of your best ball teams are maybe hurt. You move on. You draft more. We still have time, guys. We're drafting more of these things. And tonight's guest, I mean, you know this guy from Rotoviz. You know this guy from Underdog. You know him from the best ball show. Maybe I threw in an extra best, but I just like him that much. Mr. Zachary Krueger, welcome to the GOAT District, brother. We got a lot of goodness to talk to you tonight, and we are so pumped.
Yeah. Thanks for having me on, guys. You did throw in an extra best, but it's a nice little flair on the show. I appreciate you listening and thinking so highly of the show. So thank you. It's been a lot of fun doing that with Colin Kelly. Fun doing a lot of stuff I've been able to do this off season. So ready to hop on here with you guys and talk some more shop.
Yeah, we're pumped, man. We got. Oh, sorry, Dan. Go ahead.
Nothing for me. Sorry.
Oh, sorry, brother. Sorry, brother. I think I might be on a bit of a delay, so I might jump out really quick and come back. But just to let the folks know, guys, first of all, if you're watching right now, you haven't subscribed, make sure you subscribe. Smash the like button. That helps the show, the channel, big time. We're going to keep bringing the goodness. Tonight, first of all, we're going to do NFL headlines, rapid fire style, how we do it here in the district. We're going to touch on best ball. Guys, whether you're playing FFPC or Underdog, you're going to want to watch this show tonight. There's some serious money to be won in those leagues. We talked about the ripple effects. You want to make sure you're doing the right thing, and this is the place to find out how to do it. We're going to talk RBs, our favorite position, zero RBs, anchor RBs, Patriot RBs, any color RBs you want. We're going to talk tonight, and then we're going to hit, obviously, we'll touch on those receivers a bit. You know, they're a little fancy, those receivers, but we'll touch on them a bit. Guys, let's get into the goodness. Zachary, you might get both tonight, just so you know. Cool. Hopefully you respond to both because I'm very inconsistent, so I might I'll probably even butcher it too at one point. But
they usually depended on how much trouble I was in, which one I got caught. So
yeah.
So that's always it, man.
Yeah.
Zachary was the deadly one.
Yes, Zachary, and my middle name is Daniel. If we reach two names, that's when you knew you might as well just go to your room and wait to meet Dad a little bit later on down the line. But yeah, Zachary Daniel was when it got really bad. Just
walk away with your tail between your legs, right?
That's right.
So for maybe those who don't know the in-depth, why don't you tell us a bit about yourself? Inside, outside of fantasy, your kind of trip through fantasy land that got you here, and obviously touch on all the goodness that you're doing these days.
Yeah. So I guess I'll just kind of go with what I'm doing right now. I do currently write for Rotoviz. I currently have a live stream that I do with them on a weekly basis, sometimes a bi-weekly basis, sometimes a couple times a week, just depending on kind of how it lines up for the guest. But I do have another show coming out tomorrow. I will be live with Denny Carter at 8:30 tomorrow night on the Rotoviz YouTube channel. So if anyone's listening here, tune in tomorrow, check it out. We're going to do a best ball team and have some fun. We might even talk some CFL because Denny is the only person out there grinding that. So we might do that as well. But yeah, so I got my live stream going at Rotoviz. I just wrapped up my best ball podcast that I co-hosted with Colin Kelly on Rotoviz Radio. I got articles at Rotoviz. I have articles at 4 for 4, and possibly some other things in the work a little bit later on down the line. Can't get into it too much just yet, but keep your ear to the ground. Keep checking the Twitter feed. Maybe we'll have some more exciting things coming up, but that's kind of what I'm doing currently. You'll definitely be able to find my content throughout the season there. And then, as far as my overall fantasy background, started doing it in 2017 with playerprofiler.com. Matt Kelly, super awesome dude. A lot of people know him. Awesome website, really good crew over there. And I did articles with him for a couple of years. I did game charting with him for 3 seasons, which is always kind of a fun way to help contribute to a site you like, just doing stats and game charting and things of that nature. So I did that for a couple of years to kind of help with the site. And then I'm sorry, I'm reading through the questions here just to kind of see what you have here. And then you just asked me, what's your favorite aspect of fantasy football, things to write about, deep dive into? Quite frankly, I really enjoy doing best ball. I got like 1 dynasty league, 2 dynasty leagues. I really am not a big dynasty leaguer guy. That could change down the road, but I've really just kind of immersed myself into the best ball streets. Rotoviz has a lot of really fun tools to kind of mess around with best ball content. Obviously, like I said, I have the podcast that I do with Colin Kelly. So if that doesn't tell you how deep into it I am, there's kind of the tip. I have a freaking podcast on Rotoviz Radio doing it. So I'm into that. I just think there's a lot of really fun options to explore with best ball. I think there's a lot of there's interesting historical things to look at in terms of trends, constructions, how you shape your roster to give it the best chance at winning over the course of a season, whether that be a 12-team league or a tournament. Just a lot of different ways to explore best ball, and I think a lot of things are still untapped. So definitely part of my favorite aspect in terms of fantasy right now, producing content.
Yeah, and there's Dan and Theo will agree. I don't think there are too many episodes where we don't mention the Rotoviz tools. We are huge fans. Obviously, playing high volume best ball, high stakes FFPC, that sort of thing. I mean, it's a must. We say it every week. It's a must. It's a no brainer. We love the tools and love what you're putting out there in fantasy land, especially the best ball content. Good best ball content is just fun if you're into best ball, right? We're all degens, let's face it. And it's nice to hear really good content on it. We appreciate that goodness for sure.
Awesome. I appreciate it, guys.
So guys, let's get into the goodness. Like my shirt says over here, smash. This is smashing pumpkins, but you get the message. Smash the like. Just help the channel out, guys. Let's get into the goodness. Let's get into headlines tonight. Sorry. We talked about it coming into the show. Injuries are not fun, anywhere. But the ripple effect is what we want to talk about tonight. Oh, what's up with the cat? That is an awesome. Is that cat beige?
I don't know. She's like a calico.
Is your cat Garfield?
Yeah, you'd think so. I got two hanging around here. This one seems to like to sit next to me on the stream, but she's actually made more of an appearance now than before. So yeah, this is one of my two house pets here.
Yeah, it's a nice cat. She got my attention. So
yeah.
It's a goat district first. It's a goat district first.
Yeah, the first animal appearance. Yeah.
First cat.
Yeah, Dan might have an animal come by later. Who knows?
Yeah, I have been known to have a cat on the screen at times. So
good. All right. Well, good. We're amongst friends in at least. We got.
Yes, we're very pet friendly, man.
We can be the crazy cat people.
Absolutely.
Oh, we got Cody Carpentier. I just had to throw it in like that. Cody Carpentier in the house. What's up? Shout out to friend of the show. So guys,
I know that's your boy Zach, and that's he's been on the show. It was great.
Yep.
Yeah, Cody and Josh, friends of the show, they were awesome, man. So guys, go check out those episodes. They dropped a ton of goodness on all three episodes because Josh was on twice. So we talk about the ripple effect. Let's go to Jacksonville. Speaking of Josh, one of his favorites, and he was on this very show 2 episodes talking about this guy. Rubbed off on me a lot. I don't know about you guys. I have a feeling maybe a bit. But a big loss, for a rookie, that one of the top rookie running backs coming into the season. This is supposed to be rapid fire. I'm kind of prolonging this, but Zach, tell us how you feel about Etienne maybe before the injury, how you were coming in with it, and how this changes everything for you in Jacksonville.
Yeah, before the injury, I was high on him. Sean Siegel had him pegged as one of the players who he thinks would have an Alvin Kamara-like rookie season. Coming in at the value that he was in like that 6th or 7th round, this was definitely kind of a screaming value if you were looking to do something with zero RB build, which a lot of people over at Rotoviz tend to be angling for. So I really liked him and was definitely adding him to rosters just kind of based on how Sean felt about him and what he brings to the table in terms of not just the running game, but the passing game as well. Sucks to lose him. Definitely had him on some teams that I hope we'll still be able to manage, given that we're not even in week 1 yet. We'll see how that goes. And now it's James Robinson's season. I think Robinson's ADP was kind of always a little bit too low, given the way that we kind of thought he still might be able to use and be a part of a committee. He's going around some other guys, so I'm just not quite sure going to be able to contribute early in the season the way he was going to, even with Etienne healthy. I'll be curious to see how that ADP looks by this time, tomorrow, the next day or so. Curious to see if James Robinson's going to be too rich for my blood or not. I'm not really sure what that's going to look like. But, sucks to lose Etienne. Curious to see what we can do with James Robinson in the next couple of days.
Dan, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think, it's obviously terrible what happened to Etienne. In my mind, Robinson, where he was going when he was, dropping into the 7th, 8th round, really wasn't a bad pick at all. It was definitely not a sexy pick, but, not a bad pick in that, he's already succeeded and wildly so in the NFL. His head coach, even though he drafted a 1st-round running back to go with him, never said he wasn't going to feed him the rock. And, it kept saying that he was going to be very involved in the offense and that they envisioned themselves as a team that was going to use multiple backs. So, just taking the cheaper option there, I think had and especially when you have a more established option. And as, a friend of the podcast, Dwayne McFarland, talks about it, a lot of times the new running back, the rookie running back has a hard time coming in and taking over for the, any kind of established running back. If there's like a gaping hole, like there is in Pittsburgh, you can take Najee Harris and you can just kind of pencil him in. But when you're talking about even somebody like ETN or Javonte Williams or whatever, don't minimize how much trouble they might have unseating, the starter in front of them. So I think Robinson is definitely going to be bouncing up the draft boards. I'm glad I've got some cheap shares, but I don't know. Where do you guys think he's going to go?
Zach, if you haven't figured it out yet, rapid fire over here is like a Portuguese goodbye. It's like my wife's Portuguese, so I can say that. But we say it's rapid fire, but we get into it, man. It's too good to talk about. Theo, I said on the micro ball, and for me, the big winner here is Chenault. Like that's where I see some big wins in the short game. How do you feel? I know you were also in on Etienne, if I'm not mistaken.
So my ETN exposure is more on the dynasty level. I haven't ended up taking them in any NFFC or FFPC draft. I have one football guys where I took ETN. It was early on, and I kind of avoided that. Dynasty wise, I'm still a little bit concerned. List Frank is no joke. Guys don't come back, 100% off of List Frank all the time. You expect 9 to 11 months. So that kind of doesn't make him a slam dunk for next, training camp. So I'm a little concerned in Dynasty. And then to get back to Dan's question, I tweeted, I thought James Robinson would end up going in the 4th round in most of these high stakes leagues. It felt about right. I could see him getting dragged up into the 3rd round, around like kind of where Swift is going in the FFPCs. I think people kind of have general fear of the Jaguars offense just being a complete dud. So I think that'll keep him down in the 4th. But somewhere in that range. And then I agree with JD. I think Laviska is the big winner here because, I'm a fan of Laviska. I've been drafting him. But I think the fear with Laviska was that they were going to use ETN in the manufactured touches, getting the ball around the line of scrimmage, screen game. Now I think it's kind of wheels up for Viska potentially, where he's going to get those low 8-out dot passes and potentially be used as a rusher a little more. So, it's a huge cascade effect. And I think Robinson, I'm not sure how much I'll have of him. Just I like him like you guys do. I just think that it's kind of like an opportunity cost thing in the 4th round. I hope to get more Laviska Shenault, but I think he'll be headed up until like the 6th or 7th.
I love the comment from our boy Jeremy. Etienne bailed the J-Rob owners. And Theo, you talk about where he's heading. I mean, knock on wood, we don't have any more, but you have 1 or 2 more injuries in those top end RBs, and he might be going even sooner than that,
Yeah, it's weird. It's like with ETN, Zach brought up the Rotoviz guys liking him, and I think there's been a lot of the kind of the zero RB or the anchor RB guys liked ETN a lot. It was kind of like Swift and ETN seemed to be the running back that the zero RB type drafter would get behind because they have the upside, the receiving ability, and now it's kind of like I think drafts might get even more wide receiver crazy in some of those rounds. It might be harder to get wide receivers in the 6th round because some might just get pushed up. I mean, James Robinson's not going to appeal to every kind of drafter. He doesn't have the draft capital. Last year he received, it was a perfect storm, I think, last year. So I'm interested to see where the wide receivers end up in some of these, leagues. Like we're seeing like Claypool and Judy go in the 5th every single draft now in FFPC. So
friend of the show, Kevin Wheeler, one of the best rankers out there in the game, gets the first air horn from a comment on the show. Carlos Hyde on the block. Shout out to the Goat District chat because that's definitely some Goat District action there. But yeah, I you know what? We didn't do the rapid fire, but I think that's the biggest headline. So let's go a little quicker through the next ones. That was awesome goodness there out there in Jacksonville with a lot going on. We didn't even touch on the quarterback, but that's maybe for another day. Anderson contract. I thought it was interesting just because, you've got a new quarterback in Darnold going there. You've got DJ Moore, such high hope. He's a pretty expensive piece when you're drafting these rosters. does Carolina showing commitment to Anderson change anything? And maybe just give us an idea where you were, or where you are on this, whether it's the aerial game or whatever pieces that you are focusing on in this offense.
Yeah, so I mean, at least for myself, in terms of the way Robbie Anderson, was used last season, it's kind of hard to imagine a contract really propping him up much more than what we saw last year. He had 136 targets. He finished with 95 catches for 1,096 yards and 3 touchdowns. Like, that's pretty good target volume for a wide receiver who's possibly not even the wide receiver one on his team. If anything, I would say that, I might still expect his numbers to just be a little bit lower with the return of Christian McCaffrey. I know that Mike Davis was there. I know he caught passes. I know he contributed in a big way while CMC was out. But I am also concerned that if the Panthers are still not quite the solid team that they need to be in order to maybe feature a little bit more of a run-heavy offense, and they could be passing a bit more like they were last season, and McCaffrey's return could lead to him seeing a few more targets than what Mike Davis saw last season in the passing game. And then I also think Terrace Marshall is probably going to find his way into a higher target share a lot faster than we think. I mean, he's been absolutely ridiculous this offseason. Training camp videos, just highlights galore. I know he burnt, I don't think it was Marlon Humphreys, but I know he burnt the Ravens cornerback the other week in the preseason game for like a 35-yard catch. Like, it seems like every chance Marshall gets a chance to make a play, he does it. Anderson's going around wide receiver 29. I think that's about right. I don't know if I'd be moving him up much higher just because of the contract. There's still a lot of players who are going to get looks in that offense.
Dan, now you know how I feel every time I pass it to you and you steal my goodness. Having these top end, the VIP guests. No, dude, that's how you roll. It's just you don't even have to try. It just you cover all the base. Every questions I've asked you, you've covered. Like, it's awesome. It's awesome. I tease Dan because I always try to give it to them first. And then by the time it gets to me, it's like there's not much more to say, But we love that, man. That's awesome. Everything you're bringing is awesome. I was gonna say the other thing is our guests just really seem to know that if they get on Dan's good side early in the show, it's a good thing for them. And you just spit out some Terrace Marshall goodness. And I mean, Dan, did he not win you over or what?
Right there, that was all I needed to hear. Yeah. Terrace has been fantastic.
Yeah,
I've been all over him since before the draft. So I'm happy to see him. Terrace. There's a couple things here with Robbie Anderson and Terrace. One is Robbie Anderson has ties back to Matt Rule, and I think this contract is, as Zach said, just kind of solidifies his place within the offense. It doesn't really signify another step up. It solidifies where he's at. And then with Terrace having ties to Joe Brady, the offensive coordinator. That bodes well also for him. The guy that I'm maybe starting to wonder a little bit more about is DJ Moore and exactly what is his role in the offense. And, I don't think he's going to be terrible or anything, but I was a lot more excited about him earlier in the year than I am now.
Theo, do you have similar concerns?
I've drafted DJ Moore and I still believe in his talent. He's 24 and he's had over 200 catches and, he's had over 1,100 yards back-to-back years. I think that it could be when Curtis Samuel left, people wanted to make it, potentially DJ Moore getting more targets. I think there's a chance that it's still a little bit more of a split between the three wide receivers, and Terrace Marshall crushes ADP. Robbie Anderson, probably nearly meets. I think he's appropriately priced. But I don't see DJ Moore just smashing his ADP. I think it's going to be a little bit more of a balanced approach with the wide receivers, with CMC just crushing every single week. So I don't know if I have concerns about DJ Moore. Like in Dynasty, I don't want to get rid of him. If somebody sent an overwhelming offer, I guess I'd listen to it. But he's just been such a productive player. I just don't think he'll ever quite reach that ceiling that maybe we thought about like 2 years ago, where he's going, at the turn at Dynasty startups, and now he's kind of a is what he is type player. He's like a 4th round pick in redraft, and I don't know if he'll ever reach much higher than that.
Theo, I don't know if you know, but our audience is pretty damn sharp, and our boy Benjamin disagrees with you a little bit. I'm just saying he disagrees a little bit.
But ball out, but like Ben's our boys. He's in our Dynasty league. DJ Moore balling out though. he's a 4th round ADP right now. Is he gonna exceed the 4th round ADP? Like, I think he's gonna hit it. I don't think he's gonna hurt fantasy teams.
No,
but I don't know. I don't see him becoming like a top 5 wide receiver this year. And there's guys, around that 4th round that I think potentially could exceed, what he's doing. Like, this is the ceiling for DJ Moore higher than the ceiling for T. Higgins. That's comparable guy right at the ceiling for T could be higher.
The quarterback might be a little different. I don't know.
If I could real quick, just when I look at DJ Moore, one of the things that I've kind of thought this season, and it's going to bite me when I'm not drafting him, and I realize that, but this season I've kind of viewed him as a wide receiver who I just kind of question, what if he's just good for pro football but not good for fantasy football? Like, if you look at his numbers over the last 3 seasons since he's been in the league, he is one of the top receivers in terms of targets and receptions and yards. But in looking at his numbers of all the receivers over the last 3 seasons who have 300 or more targets, he's dead last amongst that group in touchdowns with only 10. So I think that maybe what we really need from DJ Moore is kind of just some touchdown equity to go with everything else that he's bringing to the table. Like, the yards are there, the targets are there, the receptions are there, but he just can't find the end zone the way that we would want a player with his kind of ADP to be finding the end zone. So I do think there's a chance that he could bounce back, but he just also has so many other weapons around him who I think may just be better at finding the end zone than him, between McCaffrey, who's versatile in the passing and the running game, and then also Robbie Anderson, who's kind of got the size to be that red zone target. And even, this season when Dan Arnold is a top 12 tight end with, 6 touchdown receptions, he is going to be eating into DJ Moore's touchdown workload possibly. So I appreciate no one reacting like I'm a lunatic there on the Dan Arnold comment.
You're not the first Dan Arnold fan coming on the show.
Okay, I partially believe what I'm selling there with that. But if DJ Moore can get himself into the end zone a little bit more, everything else is there, and I think that that's going to be when those who slept on him, like myself, are going to kind of realize that the touchdown regression was probably bound to happen eventually. But even then, there is still some doubt in whether or not it will. But that's my 2 cents on that.
And shout out to Wheeler, who pointed out the touchdown thing as well. Like, DJ Moore had 4 touchdowns last year. If he would have just had 7 touchdowns, which is not at all crazy, especially for a guy who gets 40 plus yard receptions multiple times a year, then I think he would have gone from like wide receiver 25 to like wide receiver 16, and the perception of him would be a little different. So I don't know. He's an interesting player right now, but I think 4th round, 5th round, I think that's about right.
Wheeler saying, are we underdrafting Darnold? I just took Darnold as my QB2 behind Trevor Lawrence, as my QB1 in the 100K FFPC. And I got to say, I passed on like the Trey Lance because I had, Kittle and Ayuk, and I passed on Fitz. I feel good about it, guys. I kind of love the upside that I get from, drafting Lawrence in the, I think it was 13th round or something, and then Darnold in like the 15th, or, in those like teens. The value is, it's nice in these big tournaments because, you hope that something pops from the bottom and brings you to the top. But guys, loving the activity in the comment room tonight. Obviously, Zach bringing in the goodness and bringing in the comments. Shout out to Wheeler, Jeremy. You guys are just bringing it. We appreciate all of it. Jeremy just met. You guys see a regression at all?
I'd like to think so. I've seen regression the last 2 seasons since his rookie year. It hasn't really quite happened yet, but the numbers are all there that would support a positive touchdown regression for Moore. So hopefully 2021's a season.
Yeah, right. It would be nice to see. And I think, to whoever's point it was about, to Kevin's point about, are we underdrafting Darnold? Either we're definitely underdrafting Darnold or we're way overdrafting at least 1 or 2 Carolina receivers. Because they just don't make sense together.
Yep, agreed.
That's the same problem with Ben Roethlisberger too. That we just want to kind of throw that in there.
Yep, absolutely. These guys heard me last night when we were in our draft. I was pushing hard for Roethlisberger as our second quarterback, but didn't happen for us. We didn't put quite a high enough priority on.
All right,
tried to push it too far.
harsh reality. The GOAT District just sucks huge bags when it comes to going rapid fire in anything. But at the end of the day, we are here to serve you, the people, right? At the end of the day, we want you guys to win. We want you to get something out of this to give you an edge. So we got to bust out the questions. Kyle Senra, my buddy up here north of the border, big friend of myself and Fantasyland, wants to ask us a question. I'm going to throw it real quick, guys. Real rapid fire. Chase Edmonds, Singletary. He's saying, is there a big difference? Is the value Singletary here, Zach, or do you think Edmonds is, take him when you can?
It's an interesting question just because their ADPs aren't that particularly close. For me, I would say that the big difference is that you're looking at one running back who probably has majority of the passing game work to himself. So in a PPR league or even a half PPR league, if you like Edmonds' value there because of that receiving upside, then I would go with him. But I also don't hate Singletary's value where he's going at. I just, he's probably going to give you more in the rushing game. And it's going to be more of a committee situation. I don't know that game script is going to necessarily steer him with being, a player who severely outplays his ADP.
Yeah, he's vanilla, and Edmonds might be strawberry, and they're definitely in different tiers and different ends of the pool. But I think what our boy Kyle's saying is one that much different. When you're looking at the difference. Dan, anything to add on the two running backs? I know Edmonds is one of your boys.
Yeah, and Singletary is too a little bit. I think the Buffalo running backs are underdrafted right now just because they had so many. I think positive regression is coming for them on TDs as well. Buffalo scored so many weird ways last year, and I just don't see that continuing. I think they're probably just going to get some more touchdowns, and if one of the two can take over the job, to a 65% share or something like that, I think they'll be pretty valuable, and they're both cheap enough to speculate on.
All right, super rapid fire. James Conner, Theo, yes or no?
I've drafted him before. I don't mind having him when he's in like the 11th round, but I'm not pounding the table for him.
We literally blow goats on the GOAT District because we suck so bad at rapid fire. Zach, James Conner, yes or no?
Give me 10 seconds. No, yeah. That's fine. I got no problem with James Conner.
I love it, Dan. I love it.
I will give a similar tepid endorsement.
All right, nice. You guys are awesome in the chat. I had to throw the question in there. And our boy Kyle thanks us for the question. So real quick, we'll do rapid fire here, kind of similar to the yes, no. Winston, we talked about coming on the show, leading the clubhouse, as they say in golf. Zach, is that something that you're going to hang your coat on, or what's your approach on the quarterback situation in Saintland? Saintville?
Yeah, I mean, just real quick here, I'll just say that right now, if you're buying into coach speaking rumors and what's coming out of the clubhouse with a week to go before the final preseason game, get your Jameis Winston now, because the second that gets finalized, his ADP is bumping. Right now, you can still get him near the final round of drafts. So if you like him, get him. You'd be very bold if you put him in a 2 QB build, but if you put him in a 3 quarterback build, that could be really, really good value, especially if that comes true.
Theo?
No, I think it's clearly going to be Jameis, and I think that we've all been wanting this to happen for fantasy. I wonder the effect with Alvin Kamara. Jameis has never really been that big of a check down guy to the running back. But I do think it's, if you have Kamara stock, you much prefer Jameis than Taysom Hill. At least you're going to get some consistency there. So it's good for Kamara. It's good for Callaway. And if Michael Thomas ever decides to come back, then it's going to be good for Michael Thomas.
Dan, let me ask you this. If you're a Jameis team, you're on Team Jameis, you got the Winston tattoo on your forehead, the whole deal. Do you prefer that a guy like Taysom Hill starts and then it goes to Winston so they give him a bit longer leash? Or are you thinking, get him in there right away so he can show his stuff?
I'm a get him in there right away, but I also have a stake in that. Way back early this spring, I made a bet with somebody on Twitter, OSU kid, that Jameis Winston would be starting a game 1, week 1 for an NFL team somewhere. And so now I'm just terrified that they're going to start off with a trick play, and it's going to be Taysom in there to start the game, and I'm going to lose on a technicality.
Yeah. Oh, gosh.
It'll happen. You know it will.
All right, we're going to do a quick OTC on this one. New England Patriots. Zach, Cam Newton or Mac Jones?
Mac Jones for me, only because I think that the Mac Jones era will be here sooner rather than later. If I'm building out my rosters, I don't have to build either of them into my roster as a quarterback too, unless I'm really just getting risky here. So if I'm putting them on my roster, I'd rather have someone who I think can contribute late in the season and hopefully give me some added points. I don't think Newton's probably going to be doing that unless there's an injury to Mac Jones that would lead to Newton reclaiming his job, because I think eventually Newton will lose it.
Dan, I feel like you're along those lines. Anything different there?
No, I'm definitely more on the Mac Jones side. I don't think Cam has it anymore. And I think he can look good in stretches, but I just don't think he can look good for the season. And sooner or later, Mac's going to get in there.
Yeah, I still have one Cam share in Superflex in the Super Goat, and I just need him to give me a couple weeks, man. Just 2-3 weeks.
I got him in the Draft Sharks Invitational. I don't know if Cody Carpentier is still tuning in, but I got him in the Draft Sharks Invitation with Cody Carpentier. He fell like the 13th round. It was later than anybody else was taking, and we had him as our fourth quarterback in Superflex. So I would like to see 1 or 2 weeks out of Cam just for a little bit of fun. But yeah, so. Yeah, there's Cody.
There he is for you. There he is right there. There he is, Cody. We appreciate you tuning in, and we appreciate all you guys tuning in. If you haven't done it, smash the like. It's the quickest, easiest way to help us keep bringing you this goodness. That's my quarterback. That's one of the best.
Our value quarterback, baby.
Yeah, exactly. Yes. There you go. There you go. All right. The comments are just going bananas tonight, which is awesome. One more real quick. We're going to go back to the yes or no, guys, real quick. Dan, Watson, yes or no?
Yes.
Like late. We're thinking late.
Like
he's going late, so
we're
not saying top 5 QB here. Guys, late. Last pick. Kyle. I see Kyle on the screen. Zach, you go.
Yeah.
Yes or no?
I get Josh a lot. No, but no for me.
Theo?
20th round, if you want to take them, go ahead.
Yeah, I think it's if you.
20.
Sorry, Theo. Go ahead.
Wait for the news on whether he ends up on the commissioner's exemption list. You can always just cut him, but if you get some starts out of him, go for it. 20th round doesn't cost you anything.
That's true. Admittedly, I do have best ball brain, so I still kind of view that last spot as a spot where I just rather put him on there, but if I can cut him, I might take a shot on him that way.
Yeah. Best ball probably best not, especially 18-round best ball. Don't take Deshaun Watson, but 28-round best ball.
Yes, that's a good point. That's a fabulous point, and I love the best ball brain because we were on last night doing a football guys, and I was like, guys, keep reminding me that this is not best ball because my brain is in full best ball right now.
I assume everything I'm being asked is best ball, and then everything I tweet, I assume it's implied that it's best ball. So like when someone pops into my thread and it's like, what the hell are you talking about? I'm just like, brother, like, first of all, you don't follow me, so you're definitely new here. Second of all, it's best ball brain until probably like mid-August, which is now past that point, so I should probably hold the strip.
So again, just because we're here for the people, let's do a yes or no. Go back to you, Zach. Cortland Sutton.
He's healthy, correct? He's playing. So if he's healthy, he's playing right now. Yeah, Cortland Sutton all the way. You can get him at a decent value. I think it's part of a good wide receiver core. Quarterbacks are shaky, but we've seen a lot of bad quarterbacks give good wide receiver seasons.
Theo, yes or no on Sutton?
Give me Jerry Jeudy. If it, I don't want to have 2 Broncos wide receivers, and I'm a big fan of Jeudy. So give me Jeudy.
Dan agrees.
Same, yeah. I mean, Sutton's going a little bit later, makes him intriguing if you miss Jeudy, but prefer Jeudy.
Nice. Oh, Anna's in the house. Shout out to Anna, who saved me the other day after I spoke to myself for an hour and a half on mute while I thought I was doing a play-by-play on my best ball. Just, we're very profesh. But no, 99% of the time we're on point. Just when I go solo, it might go off the rail. So guys, smash the like. A lot of goodness tonight. lot of goodness on Viridian Global. You see the hat, the shirts. Dan, Theo, I know you guys can agree. You guys have been actually ordering even more consistently than I have wanted to. But the gear is just comfortable. They got a ton of good stuff. Check out the GOAT gear, viridianglobal.com/collections/GOAT District. And just a bunch of fun stuff, Dan. Like, if you have a favorite guy, like we're all super heavy on Gibson. I already got my JT t-shirt, RBs Matter, but a lot of fun stuff. No, guys?
Yeah, definitely. And the fit and the wear is fantastic. I mean, it's good quality stuff. It feels nice. So I'm all about it. I've got a third t-shirt coming in the mail and a hat right now. So they're on the way.
All of the fantasy gear that I have is just some of the comfiest stuff. You can tell that it was definitely built for guys who just sit in their basement and don't have lives. Super comfy gear. I don't know how that worked out, but yeah, it's all my fantasy stuff is so comfy.
Zach just
cut
killing
a little closer, Zach.
Yeah,
love it.
My mom's basement.
Jeremy's rocking the V gear right now, which is awesome, man. Whether it's our show or your favorite fantasy show, a lot of shows right now out there. Will and Mark just built something awesome. That with what they've done over there at Viridian. And guys, you know how we roll, man. We don't promote a lot on here. We might mention it every show because we're trying to get you guys to support them the way they support us. And it's also because we believe in it, legit, we wear this stuff. It's comfortable. If it wasn't, I wouldn't tell you to go buy it. We're literally making, so we're not retiring off of this. Dan's not moving to St. Martin's because we sold 10 shirts, in the last month or whatever it is.
Yeah, so. Not yet. So buy more.
Yeah, exactly. That's right. Yeah, maybe if their sales were better, it'd be a different story.
Tonight might be our record for air horns by the end of it. But all right, let's get back to the goodness, guys. I'm gonna go to Theo. We said it. We love Dynasty, and we're gonna touch on Dynasty, and whenever we can, we'll add that to the comments. But right now, let's face it, we're drafting ReDraft. We're drafting these big tournaments. FFPC, myffpc.com, Underdog. Theo, what's the first thing we're throwing on the table here?
So, with regards to the FFPC Slim Best Ball tournament, the $100,000 one, and the Underdog, which is also a slim 18-man roster, what has been your general approach to attacking those drafts? And what do you think the optimal build is? Is there a specific build you're looking for in terms of number of quarterbacks, number of running backs, or are you moving around?
Yeah, so in terms of, I guess a couple ways we can tackle this thing. In terms of Underdog, I'm usually looking to go, I'll say this, in terms of best ball in general with these two specific sizes of both being 18 rounds. One thing that we kind of learned and discussed on Rotoviz is that for your onesie positions, a general rule is just kind of not to want to have those two positions add up to 6 total roster spots. So, for example, 3 quarterbacks and 3 tight ends doesn't tend to be the wisest of investments. If you want to have 3 at one position, have 2 at the other, pivot, switch between quarterback and tight end if you want to. So that's usually one rule I kind of try to stick with. Win rates just tend to prove better when those two numbers aren't adding up to having 6 players invested at those onesie positions. So that's one rule I kind of try to stick to. And then the other real rule I try to stick with is just always being mindful that you want more receivers than you do running backs, even if it's not necessarily a running back heavy team. Even if you're going with a 0 RB team, it's still okay to have lesser running backs than it is wide receivers. Usually I probably am trying to get 5 running backs, depending on how much draft capital I have invested in those early round wide receivers. I may consider going with a 6th running back if I feel as though I have enough draft capital in my wide receivers where I just have those 3 or 4 guys who, in my mind, I'm mapping out everything. If it goes perfectly or close to perfectly enough, they will be picks that often find their way into my lineups. And as a result, I can add that 6th running back over a 5th one just to kind of help, hedge a roster that might be a little bit weaker at that position. So those are a couple of the general rules I would follow for both FFPC or Underdog. And then there are a couple of other tools you guys mentioned earlier that you guys use over at Rotoviz that we do certainly have there. The FFPC Roster Construction Explorer is a really awesome tool. I'm constantly in that. And it's very easy just to plug in things and kind of see basic ways to kind of get your roster off the ground and get it moving in the right direction. Win rates for any size build, whether you have a 1 quarterback build or something crazy like a 5 quarterback build, probably all show up there in that Explorer. You can see what those win rates look like. Maybe you use that as a starting point if you've never done this before. Find that build that you think gives a more positive win rate, and then kind of start to mess around with the other positions based off of that. But usually 2 to 3 quarterbacks, 2 to 3 tight ends, maybe flip them around to make sure I'm not having 6 total there at the position, and then going with fewer running backs than wide receivers. Usually it's 4 to 6 running backs, depending on, again, just draft capital, other positions, particularly the wide receiver position for me.
And as a follow-up, what's the main mistakes that you're seeing people do? And we could stick to the Underdog for this question.
Yeah.
Is it a structural builds, or is there some other mistakes that drafters are really screwing themselves with?
You can't
One thing,
handle the truth.
nice clip there, Jack Nicholson. You can't handle the truth. If everyone caught that. No, that was awesome. One of the things that I think I kind of noticed with drafters, and I kind of learned this myself along the way. I look back at some of my other teams from earlier this year, and I just think like gross based on some of my mindset. But yeah, like you have to be honest with yourself. Sometimes you just draft like an idiot, and then as you learn, you improve along the way, and that's kind of what makes us fun too. But I think the one thing that I've learned to do that I think I still see a lot of other people doing is not having enough confidence in some of their other positions that they have invested high draft capital in hitting in the way that their draft capital suggests that they should. So, for example, the one that always stands out to me the most is quarterback. If you're taking one of those top 5 quarterbacks, it doesn't really make a lot of sense to me to be grabbing a second quarterback, even in something like the 10th round. I mean, those top 5 quarterbacks are going usually between rounds 3 and 6. If you're investing top 6 draft capital in a quarterback position, the expectation is kind of that they're going to be very good for most of the season. You passed up on other very good positions to get that quarterback on your team. So what I don't want to do is draft another quarterback early in the draft where I'm now again passing up on another good position for another quarterback at a onesie position where that quarterback could perhaps outperform my early round quarterback more times than I want him to, while they're both still giving me good weeks, but one of them is now on the bench. And, now I've lost out on 2 positions early. So if I'm taking like one of those like top 5, top 6 quarterbacks early, I'm really trying to be mindful of kind of fading that quarterback to until later in the draft. I'm probably only taking 2 quarterbacks. Maybe I'll hedge a Trey Lance or Justin Fields if I feel like it's necessary. But even then, I kind of prefer those rookie quarterbacks on those top 5 quarterback builds because I am kind of banking on them giving me more usable weeks than not. And then because I can get those rookie quarterbacks later in the draft, I'm hoping that maybe if they are what we think they're going to be, they're going to give me very solid weeks in the event that my top 5 quarterback pick has more of a floor performance and a ceiling performance.
Guys, if you have this on and you went to look at your rosters and started looking at trades, or you're in a draft and you just rewind what he just said, because Zach, I'm blown away in FFPC. Every single draft, there's someone going back to back or very early QB in the first 7 rounds, man. It just blows my mind. Like you went Kyler Murray and then you come back Russell Wilson. Like I just don't get it. It's such a waste. And I'm surprised by how often that happened. I put out a video on the Instagram, guys, Goat District FF, go check it out. But just real quick, in a video saying exactly what you just said, just don't do that. And I'm shocked by how many people do it, but that is a very big key, man. We think because we do so many of these, everybody has that kind of rule that they play by. Very important, guys. Don't waste a pick. Like if you go early QB in a 1 QB, do not take another one like 2-3 rounds later. Wait for Darnold. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, exactly. I'm pulling it up here real quick just for curiosity's sake. I did mention the Rotoviz tools. If I just put in quarterback 2 before the 11th round, so that's 2 quarterbacks in the first 10 rounds. If you do with a 2 quarterback build, the win rate's not that bad. It's 11.7%. But if you go to a 3-quarterback build, which a lot of people do, honestly, most of them do, over 1,100 teams did a 3-quarterback build with 2 quarterbacks in the first round. Their win rate's a 7.8% win rate, which is below the average win rate. So even though it says you can do it and do it well with a 2-quarterback build, most of the field is not doing it with a 2-quarterback build. They can't help themselves to get that 3rd quarterback, and that's where they immediately sink their win rates. So just understanding what high draft capital means in a player and working through the mental process of why you pick that guy in the first place, understanding that if certain players early don't hit, and this is just quarterback, this is any position, honestly, if that early player doesn't hit and you're constantly hedging around them, at some point in time it gets to be too much. And now you've passed up on other positions where the real thought process should be, if this early player fails, what I built around them probably doesn't matter because I've missed out on another good player early that I could have taken instead of the player who failed.
Well, your ceiling just keeps dropping, right, Dan?
Right.
Like we talk about it every week, man. You're just, if you hedge on bets in the same draft on the same roster, you're just lowering your ceiling. And in a big tournament, you want as high as a ceiling as you can get.
Yeah, even in standalone leagues, you got to be careful about lowering your ceiling too far. It's just, it doesn't make any sense. And I want to just quickly hop over to Anna's question here.
Sorry, Dan.
About if you've got the opportunity to block a stack and then doing something that's suboptimal for your own team. My personal feeling on that is I'm just not going to do it. There's no way. There are a lot of other ways for that, say Dallas super stack to fail without me, totally torching my own team to stop it. Basically what I'm doing is I'm trying to stop them from having a good team. And then I'm just going ahead and giving myself up in this draft as well. And, basically the only people who are going to profit are going to be the other 10 people in the draft. So there's no sense in doing it. That's where I'm at on it. What do you think, Zach?
So I just want to make sure I understand the question correctly before I answer. Are they basically asking, what if I already have one quarterback? I see a potential for someone else to make a Dallas super stack, so now I'm drafting Dak Prescott as my quarterback too? Is that what they're asking? So
I think so.
Yeah, that's why I'm understanding it. So my response to that kind of is, if you really just think about it, so Dak Prescott right now has an ADP in the 6th round. So the real question to ask yourself there is, looking at other players available to you in the 6th round, if you drafted Deebo Samuel in the 6th round, he's got, I'm not even touting Deebo here, just for the example. If you're drafting Deebo Samuel in the 6th round, he's probably anywhere between your wide receiver 2 to wide receiver 3, depending on what you're doing here. Are you okay with that 6th round pick sitting on the bench perhaps half the season? Are you okay with the pick before you made that, earlier on sitting on the bench? Because now what you're doing is you're essentially drafting one bench player in the top 6 of your picks. So if you're not okay with losing that player every week, then go and find yourself a player who can hopefully slide into your roster on a weekly basis, given their talent and the draft capital, and don't immediately give way to a bench player in the top 6 rounds. Like, try to find other ways to enhance your own roster. A good roster of your own is always going to outperform whatever way you think you got around and hurt your opponent. It's always more ideal, I think, to try to draft your strongest roster and let the other people kind of either, find their own success or be the results of their own failures.
Guys, on this topic, go check out Microballin with Andrew and I, AMS Schellenberg. And perfect example, guys. This is like Anna, thank you for asking the question. Anna's awesome, by the way. She's just always on the ball on this show. If you look at Wilson coming back, you pick up Mahomes in the 3rd round. You've got this amazing stack. You're doing so good. And then you block my DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett stack with Russell Wilson. Not that we were going to take him there, but I just think like you just killed the advantage that you had by taking Mahomes up there in a stack. Now you've just wasted that spot, in my opinion. Is that something similar that we're talking about here, Zach?
Yeah, Russell Wilson is going to either have to have a God week, or Patrick Mahomes is really going to have to kind of dump out on you in any given week for Wilson to find your lineup. And neither is really ideal. You want that 3rd round pick in your lineup more often than not. If you're drafting CeeDee Lamb, you want him in your lineup. If you're drafting, I'm just trying to look here through a quick name. 7th round's a little bit more risky, but you get my point. Robbie Anderson, a really good Robbie Anderson week in the 7th round is going to be a great pick for you. Shout out, by the way, to Team 6 going super hard zero.
Yeah,
Very, very sexy.
Rotoviz hardcore member right there.
Yeah. Thanks for subscribing. Yeah, like that's not a.
Fucking Zach is awesome tonight. Love it.
That's not what you want to see. It's tough to lose those early round picks that way. You want Mahomes in every week, and like I said, if Wilson is finding his way in your lineup a lot, that means you likely blew your third round pick, which is not something you want to be doing.
Yeah, I thought that was too fitting. Sorry, guys. Hate to throw on my rosters, but come on, it was fitting.
Yeah, that's great. Which roster is yours? Just out of curiosity.
Oh, let's go back. There we go. We are in the 4 spot. Higbee is kind of our mistake pick, but yeah, otherwise we're in the 4 spot.
Okay. I was gonna say, I'm glad you didn't say you were 5. So
no, we 5 and 4, 5 and 3 are just not. And then you've got number 2 who's just reaping the rewards of number 1's mistake. Like, anyways, that's a whole other story. All right, all right, guys. Dan, I'll go to you. What's the next thing we want to sling on the table? I know we're getting some awesome questions from the chat, and we'll keep throwing them on there as we see fit. But what's the next thing we want to pick Zach's brain on?
Well, I think one of the things we need to talk about, if you're drafting the 0 RB teams, what are some mistakes that people are making often when they're trying to do a 0 RB build that you're seeing happen actually in drafts?
I think the approach when it comes to 0 RB drafts that people probably make bigger mistakes on is probably something to the effect of, first of all, they haven't been doing a lot of them, or they just have an incorrect perception of the draft. And now they think because they've gone 0 RB, it's almost like they don't know when to stop. Like they've gone 0 RB, they finally reached the moment in their draft where they're like, okay, like now I can draft my running backs. And they just get, all excited. They start just firing off all these running backs that they're going to take. And before you know it, they have a roster that's almost too wide or too running back heavy. And they didn't add enough at other positions because they thought that part of the 0 RB strategy is you just get a hell of a lot more running backs than everybody else, and you get them late, and that's how you're going to win. And again, just talking best ball, the optimal ideal is to still stick within a construction. It's been shown through different research that we found over on Rotoviz that proper construction wins out over quality players, which I don't mean to say you don't want quality players. You obviously want quality players, but proper construction and making sure that you get in the right number of good players into your lineup every week without giving up too much at one position so you can focus more on hitting on another. Proper construction wins out. If you look at win rates for poorly constructed teams, it's a reason that we don't even really concern ourselves necessarily with what the player ADPs were. That's certainly something that factors into it. But you can just look at solely constructions and see bad win rates. And the math behind that, in all likelihood, is probably just that specific construction doesn't work out. So I think people who haven't been drafting 0 RB teams who try to get into it just need to be more mindful that what they really need to focus on is sticking within a proper construction, not getting so antsy about the fact that they don't have all these sexy running back names on their team. Draft guys who they're confident in, that they can envision reasonable floors with hopefully a high ceiling, and build your roster that way. One thing that Peter Rosette talked to me about when he had, or when he was on my show a while back too, was just trying to balance out how you 0 RB. So maybe you get a couple of those safe floor guys. Nyheim Hines is probably a safe floor guy as a pass catching role in Indianapolis. Maybe J.D. McKissick is a safe floor guy. Working a couple guys who you think could maybe be in a bit of a timeshare, and they're going to hit on certain weeks, like a Gus Edwards or I'm trying to think, like a Kareem Hunt or something like that. Kareem Hunt's probably a little bit too early for 0 RB, but the idea behind it works out. Damian Harris, another player, might be interesting for 0 RB targets. And then also get a guy who you can swing for the fences on, someone who maybe he doesn't have much of a role if the guy ahead of him is healthy. But then if all of a sudden he goes down, Ezekiel Elliott, Tony Pollard in the 10th round, all of a sudden becomes a screaming value and a potential top 12 running back the rest of the way. And now you have a proper mixture of good floor, reasonable ceilings, and then a home run threat that it takes one bad game on any given Sunday for something to happen. Not that we ever want injuries to happen, but part of the success for the roster build that way is to embrace the fact that injuries are an unfortunate part of the game, and we're trying to find ways to capitalize on that.
And that for me is just a huge proponent for tiers, right? Like type of players and tiers are how you build rosters. You're not playing rankings. Like you're not playing the best player, but like, I always say these draft boards are like art. If you know what you're doing, it's like an art to build these rosters. Dan and Theo, anything to add with the mistakes? I keep bringing attention to the chat. We got our boy Cody. I want to do a quick, rapid fire. All of us throwing our most own best ball guy right now. But anything to add with mistakes that you guys are seeing? Because you guys are also in there drafting all these rosters. Dan, I'll go back to you as you asked the question. Any specific mistake that you're seeing that Zach hasn't mentioned?
Yeah, I think I think a lot of times there are people who think they're doing a zero RB and they don't really understand exactly what it is, and so they're just not even really doing it right. I drafted 4 wide receivers in a row, so now I'm just going to go hit running back. You really probably haven't drafted enough wide receivers yet. It's not to say you can't slip a running back in here or there in a zero RB build. You definitely want to take advantage of whatever value drops into your lap, but you've also got to be careful about how you do it. So that's where I'm at on that.
Hey, Wheeler's killing the comment.
Yes, I know, man. I'm like
holding it in every
time. Did it again.
The counselor, the fantasy football counselor. I don't recommend his listening, but if you ever
that guy's still around, man, come on,
go check him out. He did a podcast zero RB, and he proved his point by drafting his zero RB roster. He went a 4th round running back, very very bold, true to the spirit of zero RB with the 4th round running back, and he did like an 18-minute podcast on about. So you're correct. There are a lot of people out there, Dan, who do not understand it. Joseph Robert is one of them.
That's hilarious. Wow.
It was a good laugh, actually.
Theo?
So I'll kind of repeat what Zach talked about. When you do go running back, you've got to have the right kind of running backs. You want to have a couple guys you can use week 1. If you've gone many rounds without drafting one. And I think that one mistake I see in the FFPC, specifically to the FFPC, is when people go zero RB, I still think that they need to have an advantage at tight end and an advantage at quarterback to make it work. You cannot just be wide receiver centric. The NFFC, you can do the traditional zero RB, but the FFPC, you really need almost an anchor tight end. Like we built our team, kind of a modified zero we did last night. We made sure we got TJ Hawkinson, so we can kind of hang our hat on that. But I think that there's it's the running backs. It's getting away from the strategy too quickly. Like Dan talked about not having enough wide receivers. Some of the old articles about zero RB are still some of the best ones, and they still apply today.
Mm-hmm. And you meant, just to your point real quick, FFPC gives you a really tremendous edge at the tight end position. So if you really do want to zero RB properly in the FFPC streets, like get one of those early round tight ends. We already know they give you an edge in PPR, but now when you're getting 1.5 point PPR advantage, like that's a really, really good edge to have and a very nice foundation of a zero RB build for sure.
Yeah. And sorry, I just want to add, Theo, what you said about you kind of got to wrap up that RB position. It's like the delicate baby, right? So you're building everything around it to protect it. And I love that you said that, because that's exactly how I feel when I'm building those. I'm okay as long as I can have an advantage, whether that's double tapping tight end to compete with the Kittle guy or those top end guys, or you got one of those top end guys and you've got a legit QB1 that gives you either an equal fight or an advantage. I love how you said that. I think that's super key if you do decide to go light tight end light zero RB type of build. I think that's huge, and I think a lot of people miss that.
Yeah.
So let's do a quick, kind of rapid fire in between these questions, just to kind of go back to Cody's question. So just in best ball, Zach, I'll go to you first. Is there a guy or two that you're maybe are some of your most exposed players when it comes to best ball?
Yeah, judging by my exposure, I am Darrington Evans' long-lost brother.
Nice. Nice.
Yeah, Darrington Evans is one of them. I can give you another one.
So let me ask you this: do you Darrington Evans with or without Henry?
I don't stack any running backs with their handcuff. That's one of the ways that I think you do kind of limit your upside, just in terms of, you know, I know some people like that kind of security blanket of having like a Henry and a Evans, a Pollard and an Elliott, but I always try to find ways in which I can have enough players on my roster where at any given event that unfolds across the league, I can perhaps benefit from that. I don't think that losing a guy like Derrick Henry is going to suddenly be make me feel comfortable knowing that I have Darrington Evans on my roster. Whereas if someone else losing Derrick Henry, their team is now really hurting, and now I'm benefiting from it. I don't want to try to benefit from my own misfortunes. So not a lot of Evans and Henry. I really don't stack running backs on the same team.
Wheeler is saying you probably don't draft Henry.
I don't draft Henry. I made a joke the other day that like I basically talked about Derrick Henry being a fish pick, and it didn't go over very well for me on Twitter. So I'm sorry.
Shocking.
I said drafting Derrick Henry is more like treading water than it is outpacing your competition. He's probably more likely to just kind of keep you with your competition rather than win you your league. So that's assuming PPR or even half PPR. So sorry to the followers who I said that offended. But yeah, Henry is not my guy. Sorry.
Yeah, I'm very late on Henry. I'm in the process of doing one of those 125s, and he was my first pick, and it's because I literally have no Henry. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to grab him and just hammer everything else.
Well, I'll try again next time, you know?
Yeah. Good. You know, better luck next time for sure. And the reason I bring it up, I think this is a good discussion. You know, again, let's try not to extend this too much, but Theo and I and Dan were talking about, because I have Henry, and I went super light at RB, and I don't know what round it was, maybe 13th round or something, 14th round, 15th round. I grabbed Darrington Evans because of the value. And Theo said something interesting in a podcast I heard him on, talking about like a 10-round rule, giving you like that value that you might need to take that player. And we've always all said on this show that, you know, you take it. We're not handcuff people. Like, you know, we're not taking handcuffs because they're going to cap your ceiling. But is there any exception for you when it comes to handcuffs, whether it's you know, the amount of rounds or the value where that second guy's falling? Do you have any exceptions to that?
It's not something I've honestly thought much on. I guess if it was something like I'm just spitballing here, like a Najee Harris and Anthony McFarland. Anthony McFarland is a player who I like for the Steelers. I think he could be the running back too.
We talked about him too, right, Theo?
I was a little bit disappointed that the Steelers drafted Harris just because I wanted to see what McFarland could do. But maybe if it's something like that, I would consider it. But oftentimes I'm trying to not handcuff my own players.
Yeah, I think that that's a great approach. I think that in best ball, it's best not to handcuff, but redraft, I don't mind with the 10-round rule.
Okay.
Oh, apologies. So you're literally applying that to which makes sense, right? So where you can set the lineup, basically.
And I'll say that an exception would be like an Indianapolis last year where you could take a Hines and put him with a Taylor. It's almost like two different positions. Or maybe James White with like a Damian Harris. You might not necessarily be betting against yourself with that.
Yeah, that's actually interesting. I hadn't really heard that concept, but I guess depending on who that first running back is and how early his draft capital is, making a bet against yourself by maybe getting another one of those other guys, depending on how early the capital is, isn't necessarily the worst move. I'll keep that in mind. Good call.
Yeah, it's one of those things that on a weekly basis, it can make sense. You know, like you might have weeks where, you know, like for James White and Damian Harris, for example, you might have weeks where Harris does great and then other weeks where White does great, you know, so you're kind of creating something between the two, which is a better running back than either one of them. Yes, the stat cuff is Wheeler said.
Wheeler just killing it tonight.
Yep, that's definitely a Todd thing.
The stat cuff.
Dan,
Yep.
who? Dan, give me a name or two. One of your most owned guys. I'm curious.
Well,
I have an idea, but you
already know Antonio Gibson is one of them.
Nice.
You already know Tom Brady is one of them.
Nice.
And I believe I've mentioned before, Elijah Moore is also one of them. I'm at 27% on all three of them, and I will once again do a victory lap on my Elijah Moore shares, which are many of them are ridiculously cheap because they came before the NFL draft, and so that's going to hopefully work out well for me. The others are much more close to at cost.
Theo, a couple guys
in the FFPC tournament. It's funny that Zach mentioned it because Darrington Evans is in my top 4. I think I'm at 35% Darrington Evans. I've actually have a lot of Lamar Jackson. I didn't even realize that I have this much Lamar Jackson in this tournament. And I have a lot of Jalen Waddle and a lot of Corey Davis. And I think they were appropriate values. That's why I kept loading up with them. And then in Underdog, I have a lot of Miles Sanders. He just became kind of a value with. I feel like he kept falling. The running backs fall in that format a little bit more lately. And I have a good amount of Odell.
I just checked on my Underdog. Underdog they break down your exposures kind of differently. My pre-draft exposure tied for highest is Jameis Winston, 31.8% with Stephon Diggs at the top. Sadly, also sad trombone right behind them is also Michael Thomas at 31.8%. So I'm probably not actually looking very good, but 2 out of 3 ain't bad. Diggs, Winston, Michael Thomas. I'll take it, I suppose. But yeah,
Winston's going to be a nice. That Winston's a great pick. You got him super late.
Yeah. That was probably close to last round Winston if I had to guess at that point in time in the season, pre-draft.
Mm-hmm.
I like that.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I seem to like tight ends because FFPC, my most owned player is TJ Hawk, and Underdog, it's Logan Thomas. So
I have a lot of Hawkinson. I do know that.
It's hard to say no to Hawkinson, man.
He's actually right
in the 4th.
He's right behind. So all post-draft stuff, Hawkinson is right behind Evans. Evans is literally my most owned at 38.9%. So Evans, Hawkinson, Boyd, Cole Beasley. I've been buying the Cole Beasley dip for some reason, and then Amari Cooper. Those are my top 5. So
it's never run by the dip, man.
Yeah, I mean, I think he plays, and I think he's a value. And if people are worried about him, that's fine with me. He's going as a wide receiver 65. I'll take that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
There was one article I wanted to ask you about, just to kind of flip away from best ball. That you wrote on 4 for 4. It was about focusing on the wrong thing, and I thought it was a very interesting way you approached that subject. Do you want to kind of explain that article a little bit and kind of your thoughts behind it?
Yeah. I was actually pretty happy that you noticed that and that you enjoyed that one. That was a fun one that I got a chance to write over on 4 for 4. We were doing player profilers, and you guys all hang out on fantasy Twitter. You probably see some people just overreacting to things, and you're just like, why the hell are you focusing on this? For all the great things you can focus on, why are you hung up on this? So the big one with one player in particular is Deontay Johnson and his drops. He had, I believe it was 14 last season, which led the league. Jerry Jeudy was second with 12. And really, knocking a player for drops is just kind of silly. It's historically silly. I'll mention what I pointed out in the draft later on, but just to kind of focus on Deontay Johnson for a brief moment, he was a player who was the wide receiver 20. This is for half PPR. For 4 for 4. So he was the wide receiver 22 last season in half PPR leagues with 177.8 points. He was the wide receiver 24 with 11.9 points per game. So regardless, he was giving you wide receiver 2 value. He finished with all career highs. He had 88 catches, 924 yards, and 7 touchdowns. And on top of that, he really kind of was robbed of a much better season just based on what he was projecting for, or I should say on the trajectory for, despite a couple of misfortunes. Now, I know people do not like to say, don't remove game X because that was still a part of what happened. Deontay Johnson was literally the beneficiary is the wrong word because he didn't benefit from anything. He got hurt by it. But he was the victim of 2 just ginormous misfortunes during the season. In weeks 3 and 5, he had a combined 25 snaps when he left early in each of those games due to injury. If you remove those 2 games from what he was doing, he was actually on pace for 13.5 PPR per game. This half PPR league again, which would have tied him for Tyler Lockett for the wide receiver 12 overall and half point per game scoring. So like he was basically a couple freak accidents away from being a top 12 wide receiver in points per game. These weren't even injuries that led to any significant time missed. It was literally like he got hurt in the game and he left, and then he was back the next week. So really kind of weird to see that. And then another thing that I wanted to do too, going back to the drops, which again a lot of people are focusing on as they're drafting him as a borderline late wide receiver 2, early wide receiver 3, is that if you don't like drops, what you're kind of insinuating is you don't like fantasy points, which sounds like a complete and total oxymoron because obviously if you're dropping the ball, you're not getting fantasy points, but wide receivers who have led the league in drops have been some of the most productive wide receivers in terms of fantasy points. Just looking over it real quick, since 2018, receivers who finished top 12 in half PPR leagues averaged 229.4 points on the season. In 2020, DK Metcalf, Calvin Ridley, Justin Jefferson were all among tops among wide receivers and drops, while all 3 of them also finished in the top 12. So drops are kind of a symbol of being targeted. Someone in my dynasty league sent me Deontay Johnson for just a ridiculous price and basically cited drops as being the reason why he had no interest in him. So this was kind of an article that was inspired by some silly Twitter conversation. 4for4 also happened to need it done on Deontay Johnson. I thought it was kind of a fun way to tackle a negative, spin it as a positive. Hopefully some logic prevailed and people will be interested in drafting Deontay Johnson in 2021, because I certainly am fine with taking him, although Chase Claypool has kind of stolen my heart throughout the offseason. So I like them both now. But yeah, it was a fun article too. I'm glad you enjoyed it. It's a lot of fun to talk about. First time I got to actually cover it here with anybody. So very cool. Thank you for letting me.
And Dan, I remember hearing you with our friend Dwayne McFarland and our friend Theo saying something very similar. Like, if your boy's not getting targeted, why do you want him? Yeah, I mean, with regards to drop, like it's a sign that he's getting targeted.
Yeah, you can't drop passes unless somebody throws them to you.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah, they're frustrating in the moment, and I'm not even going to deny it. They might lose you a week, but if they're dropping passes, they might lose you a week, but they're also probably going to help you win a season.
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
And Twitter loves to pick on, stupid stuff like the Deontay.
Everything.
Deontay, yeah, literally anything they can pick holes at a player with, they're going to do, and it has nothing to do with fantasy. I think that it's a new thing with Jamar Chase. For about 2 days, people are calling Jamar Chase a bust because he had 3 drops in a preseason game. He got targeted on 3rd and short, 3rd and long, and 3rd and medium in one quarter, and we're concerned about the drops. They're looking for him, and it's just, I don't know. It's just people want to poke holes at players any chance they get, and drops means they're looking for you, like Dan said and Zach said. I think it's kind of a fake stat that has nothing to do with anything. You don't receive negative points for drops in any fantasy league that I've ever heard of. It's just a weird thing. And one other piece that I thought was well done that you did was a very positive spin on Damian Harris. Maybe you could share a little bit about that with the listeners.
Yeah, the Damian Harris situation could actually be shaping up to be a little bit better than maybe we anticipated heading into week 1, just given the Cam Newton news. But Damian Harris is a player who I've been also drafting a pretty decent amount of in underdog drafts and FFPC as well, but particularly underdog. I really like his ADP. I believe you can get him maybe around like the 9th or 10th round. Feel free to check me on that if it doesn't sound correct. I'm actually pulling it up here to make sure that I sound like I know what I'm talking about. He's got 83 overall ADP, so that's like around 7 maybe, around 7 ADP. So I'm a little bit early or later on that, but nonetheless, I like his value, particularly for zero RB builds. He is a player who showed a decent amount in the season last year for the Patriots when he was healthy. He had 137 carries, he had 691 yards, only 2 touchdowns, but his yards per carry was tremendous. He does not catch a lot of passes, so there is that downside. But I think that regardless of who is quarterback, he's probably going to be playing on an offense that is relatively run heavy. And the hope is that he can, as silly as this sounds, I say it mostly in jest, but fight off Ramondre Stevenson for week 1 snaps, despite the insane season that Ramondre Stevenson is having this preseason. I think Damian Harris is probably safe to be locked in as a Patriots running back 1. And really his biggest concern for losing any kind of fantasy value probably lied more so in Cam Newton being a goal line threat. And now Newton is perhaps going to lose out on that starting job as early as week 1. The missing time right now at training camp due to some botched COVID protocols is definitely not going to do anything to help him out. And if Mac Jones continues to show out, he's looked decent in the preseason. Apparently they like him in training camp. If he continues to show out, then I think that a team that is still probably going to be likely to lean on the run is going to probably continue to do so. I think more touches will go to Damian Harris because they're not going to be running options with Mac Jones. Those will turn into handoffs to other running backs. Hopefully most of them will be Damian Harris. And then on top of that, unless they're planning on some kind of silly package where they bring in Cam Newton for the ever predictable goal line sneak, a lot of those running plays down at the goal line are now going to be going to Damian Harris instead of Cam Newton as well. The Patriots gave a lot of goal line rushes to Cam Newton last season, and that resulted in a lot of good fantasy points for him. Kind of hurt those playing behind him. I think the sooner we get Mac Jones on the field, the sooner Damian Harris has a chance to produce. And given his ADP, I know it was earlier on, but given his ADP, I really just kind of like him at that spot. And I think it's kind of easy to envision a wheels up scenario for him to give us some high production games and possibly return a RB2 value, if not better.
Yeah, no, I'm on the Damian Harris train too. Shout out to Wheeler in the chats with regards to James White. I think potentially both of them would see their fortunes improved with Mac Jones. I think that the Harris he's been a target of mine on kind of the anchor RB teams where I've been able to grab Harris in like the 7th or the 8th. Now he's shot up to we saw him go in the 6th last night in the football guys. So he might reach a point where he becomes undraftable, but in the 7th, I don't mind it at all. How about you, Dan?
Yeah, I've been a little slower to warm to Harris, but I'm getting there. Of course, I'm getting there just as his price is starting to rise too. But that's often the way it goes when you're slow to warm to somebody. So I will probably look to try to find some spots where he's dropping even just a little bit and grab a hold of him. Mixon's been another player is the same way for me. I just never seem to be able to get him at any kind of a value. It's like I'm either reaching or he's gone.
Yeah. The other thing too that I had noticed, I'm just reviewing my article a little bit here real quick. Of the running backs last season who saw 20 or more carries in the red zone, none of them had fewer carries inside the 5-yard line than Damian Harris. He was literally dead last amongst running backs down near the 5-yard line when it comes to running backs who are working in the red zone, but just being ignored down near the goal line. A lot of those, again, they went to Newton. I think if Newton is out, I think a lot of those carries kind of by default go to Damian Harris unless Bill Belichick just has something up his sleeve where he's going to shock us as he does every year and throw someone else in who we just didn't envision being that thorn in our side who's getting 5 carries a game or 5 carries every 2 weeks, but 3 of them are touchdowns or something silly like that. But
Jonnu Smith at the goal line, Jonnu Smith around the goal line, something like weird.
Yes,
like that.
if they truly want to drive us all crazy, that's what it'll be. Yeah, exactly right.
Yeah, or worse, the Cam Newton and the Taysom Hill package.
Yeah, that's what we want to see.
For me, it's about opportunity cost, right? Like who am I missing out on when you're looking at these running backs in that range? Like if Carter is there and he's still sitting there and I'm choosing between the two, which has happened often for me, the pass catching ability that Carter offers is where I lean. AJ Dillon going after him. Obviously Damian Harris, a slicker route to starting. Do Mostert and Gaskin, either of those guys interest you that are going in this range right now in the best ball tournament for FFPC?
I don't necessarily hate either of them. I've kind of been able to see that people are not as high on Trey Sermon as they were immediately after the draft. It looks like it might in fact be Mostert's team. If he has a chance to play and play well, if he doesn't lose that backfield, then I think he's a very good value. Myles Gaskin, I kind of view as more of a replacement level player who a couple bad games could possibly lead to something like Malcolm Brown or Salvon Ahmed taking over more snaps than we like to see. But I think Mostert I view as a safer player of those two.
And wanted to get, obviously we've got you, a Rotoviz guy over in the GOAT district. What wide receivers are your favorite targets this year? Whether it's, players towards the top of the wide receiver list, maybe some mid-round guys. What wide receivers are you continually targeting and you expect to kind of exceed expectations this year?
Yeah, I like everyone in the first 10 rounds. No. If they're
Absolutely.
in the first 10 rounds,
Absolutely.
I love them. Yeah, no. There's obviously like the guys who are like the top of your list. Like Stephon Diggs is someone I just told you my exposure is super high on Stephon Diggs. I think that the Bills offense is going to remain a pass-heavy offense. I think they're going to just continue to find ways to force-feed Diggs targets, and he's going to just be a target hog for another year. So if I'm picking at that middle towards back end of a draft, if it's FFPC and Travis Kelce's off the board, it's probably between like someone like Diggs and Waller for me if they're both there. Devontae Adams, I like him as well. There's also some players who I'm taking a little bit later in drafts or people who I'm even willing to be bullish on. I think Rondale Moore's ADP is grossly undervalued. Maybe not grossly is the wrong word. I think it's silly to see his ADP where it sits compared to some other guys. That's another tweet I got absolutely killed for the other day. I was the overreactor to Rondale Moore's manufactured touches in the week 1 of the preseason, and I said that it did not make sense that he was going after Russell Gage. Haha to those people. Rondale Moore is now going earlier than Russell Gage, and I'm the one that's at least looking okay with that to begin with. But I think Rondale Moore is an excellent player who I would be okay with taking higher than a number of receivers going ahead of him. Marquise Brown is not a player who I'd be taking ahead of Rondale Moore. Marvin Jones is not a player who I'd be taking ahead of Rondale Moore. Even Curtis Samuel, for as much as I like him, not a lot of good news coming out on Curtis Samuel right now, and he's never really been the best at his best under Ron Rivera, which I thought was curious that he went ahead and went to Washington after having his best season away from Ron Rivera. He goes right back to him. But I think Rondale Moore's usage in the preseason has been rather encouraging. I know it is the preseason, but I think the Cardinals have just done some things with him that you wouldn't expect to see in the preseason. Even if they're not showing their full hand and how they intend to use him, he's still one of the leaders right now in the preseason and lining up in the snap. He was seeing manufactured touches in terms of carries. He was seeing a nice amount of targets in the preseason. Like Rondale Moore's a player who's going to be used. We know he's explosive. We know that he's also undersized. But I think if Arizona can find creative ways to get him the ball, I think he's going to drastically outplay his ADP, which on Underdog is currently wide receiver 54. For that, he needs to be a wide receiver 3 or even a wide receiver 4 to technically be considered successful. If a wide receiver 4 is a wide receiver 48 to 37 or whatever it is, then him outplaying his wide receiver 54 ADP almost seems like a lock. So he seems like a pretty easy value to me. Some other players on that list I'm willing to make a reach on. I forget who it was here. We were talking behind the scenes. Terrace Marshall, who's just been balling out this year. I've been willing to reach on Terrace Marshall by a round to get him. I think he's going to be used a lot. I really like the buzz with Marquez Callaway. Even Jacoby Myers, I think, is interesting. Talking about Patriots players, I think that I think Jacoby Myers is an interesting player who, could definitely see a nice number of targets in the Patriots offense this year. And fun fact, maybe find his first receiving touchdown this season. He had 1 touchdown last year. It was a throwing touchdown. Jacoby Myers has never caught a touchdown pass as a wide receiver who has like over 100 receptions. So maybe this will be the year for Jacoby Myers to finally walk into the end zone with the ball in his hands. But yeah, there's a number of guys who I like at wide receiver who I'm willing to be a round or two earlier on just for the sake of, locking them in. And I think the targets will be there and the production will be as well.
With some good names. We're big fans of Rondale Moore on the show in Dynasty and in ReDraft.
And shout out to Christian Kirk for sucking for 3 years so that Rondale Moore can still be a value.
Yes.
Because everybody thinks everybody thinks he's going to be Christian Kirk.
I do like Christian Kirk now. I like him.
Yeah,
now.
exactly.
Now
He's free.
Yeah. Now
free money.
Yeah, now I can get him finally and feel good about it. But yeah, Rondale Moore, I worry he's going to get injured, but if we're drafting players worrying about injury, then there's a lot of players we're just going to be passing on. So not my
I was sure Bateman was my most drafted rookie this offseason, but I was very happy to see when I did use the special ownership percentage feature on the FFPC site that Rondell was my most owned rookie. So
yeah,
hopefully good things for him to come.
Let me just walk this one out with you guys, because like I said, I got destroyed on Twitter for it the other day. Now I'm just going to ask some smart guys here and get your opinion on it. Rondale Moore, again, I tweet in terms of best ball. I might be okay with a guy like Russell Gage in a redraft league where I can see a little bit safer of a floor. But when I'm thinking in terms of best ball, that's why I still want Rondale Moore, just because I think that the ceiling weeks that he's going to give you could drastically outperform the somewhat usable weeks that Russell Gage is going to get you. I think that the times Rondale Moore finds your lineup, even if it's less, the point total could be more than when Russell Gage finds your lineup as the floor player compared to the ceiling player that Rondale Moore, I think, is going to give you. So if you want to talk redraft and having to make that conscious decision on when to play a guy, I can kind of understand the Gage pick. But am I wrong? Am I right? Where do you guys lean on that? Like, is it? I know better in best ball gets us made fun of on Twitter, so we won't say that. But do you like Rondale Moore better in best ball than you would in redraft compared to a player like Russell Gage, who maybe has more of the PPR upside, or where are you guys at?
I like Rondale Moore in both. I think he's got a floor because he's going to see the slot a ton. If not, the majority of his snaps. And I think that, Russell Gage, it's just like, I'm not the kind of drafter who's going to draft Russell Gage. You mentioned Cole Beasley. You mentioned Jacoby Myers. You can get those guys later than Russell Gage.
Way later.
Considerably later. And they have, to me, the same sort of profile in terms of what I expect their production to be. So Russell Gage is kind of like, it's one of the worst fantasy arguments that this player is gone, this player steps in, this player therefore must receive all of this volume.
Available targets.
Available target. I think if you're a Jag, you're a Jag, and it doesn't change. And I think Russell Gage is a Jag, and I think Rondale Moore is a stud. The only thing wrong with Rondale Moore to me is his size. And when you talk about size, I mean his height. He's plenty strong. He's explosive. He's a next level athlete. He checks pretty much every single box of early breakout, all the little athleticism boxes you'd want, and he's attached to Kyler Murray. So draft away.
Yeah.
Here's the trap with Gage, because I have almost no Gage this year versus last year. Gage was somebody who was very valuable to me down the stretch. He was a guy that I needed to insert my lineup in several leagues, and he did well for me. But here's the thing: now I'm being asked to pay like a 10th round price to get that. And I know full well, from years of playing fantasy football, there's going to be a Russell Gage out on the waiver wire, when I need him. And so I don't need to pay for that, and I don't think he's going to give me enough necessarily over the course of the season. I would rather, make a bet on a Rondale Moore who, sure, he might flame out, but you know what? I can grab somebody like Russell Gage off of the waiver wire to replace him if he does. So, I would rather make that bet and shoot for the upside. And I think that's what a lot of people miss.
Yeah, I don't hate Russell Gage. I'm the only person in America outside of a Russell Gage family member that has a Russell Gage jersey. Just so everyone here knows. I ordered
an LSU one? Or an LSU one or an LSU Falcons?
I ordered a 83 Falcons Russell Gage jersey from overseas last year.
Nice.
I proclaim that I'm the first Russell Gage truther. When he came on the scene post Mohamed Sanu trade around week 8 or 9 of 2019, he saw, I think, 8 targets in that first game. And I was kind of out there tweeting Russell Gage. And I think if you search for it, you'll find that any first Russell Gage tweets that weren't like live tweeting that game, it was me in the fantasy space. So I went in on it. I bought a Russell Gage jersey. I have it here. I wore it to the Fantasy Football Expo. I don't freaking hate the guy, but his ADP sucks. Like, it's terrible.
Right.
Zach, if I see a guy walking down the street with a Gage jersey, I'm not only am I like giving him the I'm going in with the give me your hand, the shoulder bump, get in there. I might even do the half hug. I'd be, dude, me and you are as degenerate as it gets right here. That's a sick jersey, dude. That's hardcore right there. If you've got a Gage jersey.
Yeah, and you can do that. You can come up, you can hug him, you can do whatever, because it's going to be me. It's not going to be anybody else. I can tell you that. At the FF Expo, they actually had a draft board. Sorry, I'm going off on a tangent here. Someone at the FF Expo had a draft board. It was kind of like, hey, walk by the board, put a sticker on it, make your pick. They were in the 3rd round. Someone told me to do it just for bit equity. I was wearing my Russell Gage jersey that day. I just slapped Russell Gage on the board in the 3rd round, got a picture with it. So like, yeah, like I like him. I don't hate Russell Gage the player. I'd love to have him on my live stream, but I can't draft him at his 9th or 10th round ADP. I'm not a lunatic outside of jersey.
I love it, man. I love it. I'm going to add this really quick. For me, it's all about opportunity cost. And you look at a guy like Rondell Moore, where he's going, show me anything better. Like he's kind of going in the right spot after the Fuller, Pittman, Curtis Samuel, Elijah Moore type of. For me, the Moores are the Moores. Like you can interchange them, in my opinion. Like you know, one's got a better quarterback. One, you know, they're kind of the same for me. But I feel like where he's going, it's a no-brainer if you're looking at receiver.
Yeah. No, I'm with you. Yeah, I think that's good. I do think your guys are right. Yeah, it's probably Rondell Moore in any round. Russell Gage could be Randall Cobb, and Randall Cobb is going 152nd overall right now. Like, that could literally be what we're talking about here. Like, what are we doing?
Yep.
Sorry, no one's gonna like me after the show.
It's called being cute. It's called thinking you're being cute. You know?
Yeah.
Yep. Absolutely.
That's right. Yeah, he developed 4.3 speed over the offseason. Let's go to drafting now.
All right. I think Wheeler and Zach need to do like the fantasy land comedy hour or something. You guys are just killing it tonight, just left and right. Loving it, man. I love it. The comments are active. The goodness is flying. Guys, check out myffpc.com. I don't think we threw that on here yet. You know, you hear us every week. We're talking it strategy tonight. If you want, you know, whether you won your home league or you're getting a little serious now, maybe you just discovered this channel, go check out myffpc.com. Tag any of us. You see our Twitters on there. Tag any of us. Even if you tag Zach, he'll send them our way. We'll hook you up with a sign-up bonus. Guys, and Dan said it the best way. You know, I've done this promo for a million times, and I've never said it as well as Dan, just like everything else, because he's got the flow, baby. He's just got the flow. But from $5 best ball to $10,000 dynasties, everything in between. That's all you got to say about myffpc.com. The customer service, there's nothing not even in Fantasyland, on the planet, whether maybe Apple, just because there's more people available other than Chris, but FFPC's level of customer service, it's better than it should be. Put it that way. Like they're above everyone else in the industry, and it's even better than it needs to be at that spot. That's the way I see it. So Dan showed it last night on our stream. Check out our Football Guys Championship draft. Just picked up the phone, speed dial, taken care of. There was a mistake with a pick, and you know, was taken care of right away. But no,
this is like subtweeting.
You know what it is? You know what it is?
Big trouble, dude.
If anyone's in sale, they understand the disconnect of sense of urgency between like the people out there in the field and the people that are sitting in the castle in the office. You know what I mean? The head office. It's kind of similar to that. And the FFPC just understands the sense of urgency, even if it's a $5 draft and you meant to pick up Etienne and you picked up whatever, Jacobs or whatever it is, or, you know, I don't even know if that makes sense. But the point is, whenever you need them, something goes wrong, they're there, man. And that's important to me, especially if you're spending, you know, 3 or 4 digits even on a fantasy league. All right, guys. Dan, I'm going to go back to you. What, anything left here? We're on what? We're on $137. You good for time, Zach?
Yeah, I was actually just going to slide in the chat. I'm having fun. Just keep it going.
Nice.
Yeah.
See, our strategy works. We don't mention anything till we get going, and then we're like, oh yeah, by the way, are you good?
Yeah, well, the other thing is too is if I don't shut the hell up, then who am I to all of a sudden be like, sorry guys, I'm out of time. Like I'm pretty long-winded, so let's just keep this thing rolling.
It's good though, because we're here to hear you talk. I mean, they can hear us talk every week, so you know.
I don't hear that every week. My wife is definitely not here to hear me talk. I can tell you that. She's happy to have me taken off your hands for the evening. So yeah, let's keep it rolling, guys.
All right, sounds good. What do you think about you know, some of the variants on the 0 RB build, anchor RB, or you know, anything like that? Are there any variants or any draft spots that you think variants are going to work better than a 0 RB, or obviously 0 RB is something you're not going to be doing all the time. Where are the places where you're going to be looking to do other things?
Yeah, so I mean, this is a really good question. For me, it usually starts around round 6. And that's just because I feel like the top 3 picks, you're probably locked in at running back with some kind of mixture of McCaffrey and then Cook and then Kamara. And then pick 4, it can get a little bit interesting if you're in an FFPC league. They might be going Kelsey there. If you're in a Underdog Fantasy League, maybe they go Henry, maybe they go Zeke. So it really just kind of depends on how it shapes up there. But usually around round 6 or 7, or pick 6 or 7. I'm sorry, forgive me. It is late, guys. You keep me on past my bedtime. So if I start not making sense, you just have to bear with me here. If we get to around pick 6 or 7, and that's where I'm picking from or later. Now I'm just kind of looking to see who's available for me at that spot in the draft, and how do I like them? How do I like who I think is going to come back to me with the next pick on the turn? And I kind of base my ideas off that a little bit. Like you said, I'm definitely not going 0 RB every time. I'm not going to draft, a wide receiver at the 101 or the 102 or anything nutty like that. You still have to do something that makes a little bit of sense in terms of capitalizing on player value. But for me, once you get around that 106, 107, that's where I really kind of start to consider my wide receiver options, unless a running back falls to me much later than I think he should have fallen. One player who I'm a little bit higher on than some people were, I know they've kind of come around a little bit more lately, but when Ezekiel Elliott was making it past like the 6th or 7th spot, if he happened to make the 8th or 9th round, or the 8th or 9th overall pick, that seemed like a kind of easy pick to me at that point in time. Now his ADP is around 5 or 6, so he's a little bit higher, but he's a guy who I was always kind of willing to go off of my 0 RB morals for the sake of getting a running back who I think is going to have a bounce back season and hopefully be a solid player. So I think that's kind of where I'm at with it. And then sometimes if you can really smash like one of those like hyper fragile builds out the gate, Saquon Barkley's falling. If you have any faith in him, you get like a Jonathan Taylor, a Saquon Barkley, or Zeke or Aaron Jones and Saquon Barkley, like any of them, if they're falling into those rounds, like that could be a very, very strong way to start a team. Of course, running backs, you're going to have that extra risk baked in. I'm not sure if you guys saw the article that Pat Kerrane did. He's actually done 2 articles recently on Legendary Upside over on NBC Sports Edge and the running backs. And one of the quotes he said is, the running back dead zone doesn't start in, I think, like the 3rd or 4th round or whatever. It starts in the 1st round. And he just looked at historical hit rates and bust rates for running backs and kind of identified how often they're not hitting. So there's definitely risk to start those early round running backs. There's even more risk if you're doing 2. But if one of them is falling after the 6th round and I really like him, I'll still take him. If not, it's usually around that 6th or 7th pick where now I'm probably leaning more towards a wide receiver or Travis Kelce if they're on the board, unless one of those tight ends slips. So I'm trying to think here. The
other day, Zach, from the 1 spot, I may have killed my CMC advantage, but I did kind of and now it's a kibosh, right? Because Etienne's hurt. But I instead of going like the receiver long after the CMC, and maybe it's similar with the Zeke, I figured if I took guys like Etienne and then I grabbed Sanders, it just allowed me more freedom with the running back position. Maybe I'm doing a super slim build, or maybe I'm adding 1, maybe 2 later on. But what are your thoughts on maybe if you do think you're hitting a slim RB build, hitting the 2 and 3 RB a little earlier than you might to give you that freedom later on in the draft? Does that make sense?
Yeah. So I think what you're talking about is basically having what's a perceived strength at the position to your advantage by now going with
having
a lot
to do
of other
less.
plays. Yeah, having to do less early and rather do more later on. So you're kind of doing what a lot of people love to call it as a modified GRB approach. It doesn't trigger anybody. Everyone loves the phrase. Modified GRB will make you a lot of friends on Twitter very quickly. But I mean, I think that's fine. If you want to kind of invest in the running back position early and just accept the fact that you're going to get your 1 or 2 guys, obviously CMC, you probably don't even need to go a second running back early if you don't want to, but the logic is still there. I'm not saying you're wrong. But if you do that, I think that, exploiting that advantage, that you don't even get all the time, because it's not like landing CMC in the 101 is easy. It's pure luck. If you get it and you decide to exploit it properly whenever that happens, I think that you can build a lot of strong teams that way. And if you want to put Miles Sanders on there, go with the slim 3 or 4 running back build and really hammer the wide receivers, like get in, get your guys, get out. You could still walk away with a very solid roster that way as well. So yeah, I don't hate that. I think it's just making sure that you're properly exploiting that, which it sounds like you are, but it's also worth noting that a lot of people do not. So
yeah, I'll be honest. It was one of those where I did like a bunch of underdogs and FFPC, and I kept nailing the 1 and 2 spot. So I wanted to try something different, and I'm curious to get Dan and Theo's input if they have anything on it, because I just found it was a different way to approach that 1 spot or those early spots where you do take your anchor, but then if you go receiver too long, then you're gobbling all these running backs on the back end. So do you guys see any advantage to maybe trying to scoop your RB2, RB3 early, guys?
I've had a 101 where like a Najee fell, and grabbing a no-brainer type volume. Usually with the 101, I like going wide receiver, just because of the value of those players. But I think you've got to just gauge it by your room. Maybe your draft room, really hammered wide receiver in the back end of the second round, leaving you 2 really viable running back options, and then you've got to make a decision. But yeah, for me, it's usually wide receiver unless a really good player falls.
What is this 101 thing you guys are talking about? I haven't seen it in a long time.
Doesn't it suck, Dan? It seems like every offseason there's one part of the pool where you just always end up. Is it?
Yep. I have been a 7-Eleven guy for a while now. It's like every draft I get into, I've got the 7 or I got the 11.
Yeah,
so.
I got 110 tattooed on my ass last weekend. Yeah, so
that's about it.
Been there, guys.
Yeah.
I couldn't get to it quick enough.
That's okay. I didn't warn you.
But yeah, theoretically, I mean, if hypothetically speaking, I got the 101, I wouldn't be opposed to grabbing a couple running backs if they drop down to me, but I'm certainly not going to reach there. I'm just at the 2-3 turn, I'm taking the best 2 players available, and just taking advantage of the fact that I know, as we go through round 3, and start to get to round 4, there's going to be a pretty big tier drop off right now. And then the same thing coming around in the 5th round, I'm just going to, again, take the 2 best players I possibly can at the 4 or 5 turn, and whatever they are. And I'll just, from there, I'm going to build the rest of my team around what I've got.
Shout out to Jeremy. Throws out the unicorn. I like it.
Now, I do have to say, I did just enter the best ball tourney. I did another entry in the best ball tourney today on FFPC, and I got the 101. I was like literally doing cartwheels around the house. So
That would have made
the neighbors now think I'm.
Should post that on Twitter. That would have been.
I know that. Yeah, and instead, only the neighbors get to see it.
That unicorn is definitely symbolic for the Mahomes, Tyreek, Kelsey stack. That is.
Oh yeah.
Right.
Yes.
I thought I was going to get it once upon a time earlier this season. I think Kelsey slipped to. Damn, did Kelsey slip to the 2nd round? I think he did, and it was super unexpected. And I took. I must have taken Tyreek Hill, and then Kelsey made it to the 2nd round. I thought he was going to make it back to me, and he didn't. And
yeah, if you're in the back end, that could easily happen.
Yeah, I was ready to go unicorn hunting, and then someone took Travis Kelsey just before he made it back to me in the 2nd, but I thought I was about to make it happen.
The comment
is awesome. Unicorn hunting on here. This
bulldog out there giving it to me. So yeah, what about what are you doing at tight end mostly, Zach? Are you finding yourself trying to grab an early one when you can? What are you doing when you can't grab that early tight end? We haven't really talked about that position at all.
Yeah. I used to be always like team like super late round tight end, and then I realized just how off I was on that, and that it's fun to do. It's fun to do it when it works out for you, but I've kind of come around a little bit more often and truly understanding the advantage that these elite tight ends can give you. I still get tempted to chase the really late round tight end just because in my mind I can always pinpoint where that one might be, and I'm certainly not always right, but the year Waller happened, I got that one right, and the year that Logan Thomas happened. So I guess the last 2 years I've gotten it right. But so I'm tempted to do that, but I don't draft enough of those kind of teams where I get it right enough for it to impact me. I often get it wrong more often than not. So I still do kind of like to now pursue an early round tight end and just get one of those elite guys. I have a cutoff point for myself. I'd be curious to know your alls as well, but it's obviously the top 3 guys. I got no issue with taking any of them at their ADP. Even Darren Waller, if you really wanted to get bold and take him in the first round, like at the end of the first round, just to try something different. I don't think that's that crazy because I think that his upside could be close to.
Who would ever do that, man? Come on, nobody's doing that.
Hey, FFPC.
On FFPC, I think Waller in the first definitely, is very defensible. Underdog, maybe a little bit more of an odd build. For sure.
Not cream.
It would be odd on Underdog. I haven't done a lot of regular PPR leagues. Honestly, it's been mainly Underdog and FFPC. So I haven't done a lot of MFLs to see where he's looking at and if you could do a first round Waller there. But no first round Waller there. But my cutoff for tight ends early is usually around, I'm trying to do the math on my head, whether you like Pitts or not, but assuming that you do, it's those top 6 tight ends. And then if I don't get any of them, then I'm probably looking to do more like round 9, round 10 tight end or later. I've got a lot of Hawkinson. I just mentioned he's my next own player after Darrington Evans. I think he's a tremendous value. I think that he has a potential to be a top 3 tight end this year. If Kittle does not see the volume that his ADP suggests that maybe he needs to see the return value there, I think that the guy who could kind of supplant Kittle could be Hawkinson late, and a team that should probably have some negative game script, looking to pass a lot, and those wide receivers are just painful. They're not. There's not a lot to get excited about there. I think that, honestly, it wouldn't shock me to see something even as crazy as like the 2 leading target, the two highest targeted players on the Lions are like DeAndre Swift and TJ Hawkinson. Like, I don't think that's off the table. It could be a little bit crazy, but I don't think that those 2 leading the team in targets is that insane. Just because the wide receivers are not a very redeemable bunch. But after those, top 5, top 6 tight ends, I'm usually fading the position until a little bit later on in the draft, and I'm probably looking to do more of a 3 tight end build than a 2.
Yep, makes sense. I'm pretty much exactly the same way. Hawkinson, maybe Andrews is kind of where my cutoff is. And at that point, I'm going to drop all the way down to like the Gronk tier, and just start. I would rather just nail 3 tight ends in a row in like rounds 9, 10, 11, or 10, 11, 12, something like that, and and just recognize that, okay, if I miss on one of those top tight ends, I'm going to be going with 3 tight ends in this build. And, this, as soon as I know that I've missed those top tight ends, I already know, okay, this is what I'm going to do. So I can already start working my team, and building my team around what I'm going to do at tight end later. So, I know I need to get my quarterbacks in a little bit earlier, make sure I'm good at wide receiver, all that kind of stuff.
I think too, it's interesting just to note, Mark Andrews' ADP on Underdog right now is like 60th overall. His ADP is basically not moved despite the fact that Rashad Bateman,
they have no receivers
out for an extended period of time. Marquise Brown not really practicing. If your best receiver is Sammy Watkins heading into week 1, you damn sure better be targeting Mark Andrews way more than you maybe were anticipating.
I think Dan's agent called him the other day. They were asking about him as a receiver.
That's right. Like, it's possible. Like, for his ADP to not be moving, for as reactionary as the market is to all these little like injuries and things that happen and stuff like that, it's kind of surprising that Mark Andrews isn't finding himself, maybe not a 4 round earlier, but it's kind of surprising that his ADP is quite literally not moved at all. You can get him at the back of the 5th or like with your first pick in the 6th round, which is something you could have been doing back in June or July.
Yeah, that's totally true.
I think you're starting to see him like the market has corrected itself in like football guys drafts, but it hasn't corrected on Underdog. It's very odd. Like Andrews is moving close to Hawkinson a little bit. Some of these FFPC football guys, but you don't necessarily see it in all formats. It's just
because
things have a way of but even still, it's I would say that the Underdog, it's still a little slight gap. And he should absolutely see a ton of volume, at least for the beginning of the season, until some of those wide receivers get healthy.
Yeah, I mean, maybe there's people out there. I don't really know what people's view on Pitts is, but if you don't like Pitts, then maybe you let someone else take Pitts. Maybe you take Andrews around earlier, and you kind of build around that way if you believe in him. Like if there might not be as much separating Mark Andrews and Kyle Pitts now as we perceive there to be before training camp with these injuries. Like unless you think Kyle Pitts is on pace for a 1,000-yard season, if he's really only going to get 600 or 700 yards, I don't think that's off the table for Mark Andrews. And maybe they're a little bit closer than you realize. So the discount Kyle Pitts could be Mark Andrews depending on what things look like after training camp and early on in the season. Again, it depends on how you view them. I'm not even necessarily I view them that way, but that's just something I'm randomly thinking about here as I spew fantasy diarrhea on a live stream at 11:30 p.m.
I feel like tight end for me,
Yes.
Dan, is kind of like running back, where like there's like the top guys, and then there's like these guys where I'm not really caring, but then you get in the bottom and it's so interesting. Like, you look at guys I was seeing in the 16th round here, like Hayden Hurst. You talked about if you're not a big Pitts guy, Hayden Hurst, obviously first catch of the season. He's going to catch a first touchdown in Atlanta's first game of the season. Mo Alley Cox is a guy I love taking in the end of tight end premiums. That's available, and your boy Theo Freiermuth, if you're living on the edge, proving himself with 2 touchdowns there with Ben. But you got Ebron. I feel like running back is very reflective of tight end when it comes to the tight end premium leagues.
No, I agree.
Yeah, I mean, it certainly can be with those tight end premiums. There's guys who I'm taking late who I'm just kind of like, I could see a world where it works out. Like as I draft them on Underdog, I now find myself telling myself like, well, if I like them in Underdog in a half PPR format, then it certainly doesn't make a lot of sense to not like them in a tight end premium format. Like I mentioned earlier, Dan Arnold. Like I legitimately love Dan Arnold. I don't know if Sam Darnold's going to throw him the football or not. Darnold to Arnold just sounds like a lot of fun, and ESPN will have a good time with it, I'm sure, as well. But he was, I believe, like the tight end 13 in air yards last season, but the tight end 31 in targets. Like he is a legitimate downfield threat. He's a decent tight end. I think he just kind of needs to find a team that's going to be willing to give him more targets. It's not going to exist in Arizona. I like him. Andrews over Hawk or Pitts.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm not a Pitts guy, so.
I want to be, but not quite. A little bit. Juwan Johnson.
I had to throw that up there.
I mean, in an 18-team league, absolutely.
All right, guys. Zach has been extremely generous. We're at a $1.57 right now. You guys should be just throwing cash this way for all the goodness that's been dropped. Theo and Dan, anything we haven't touched on? I know we tried to cover a bit of everything, focusing on redraft and best ball, just because that's kind of the feel right now out there in fantasy land. Not as many dynasty leagues. And if you want to draft the dynasty league, go check out myffpc.com. But anything to add, guys, with what we're trying to pick Zach's brain with tonight?
No, I think we touched on pretty much everything. I thought that was a great ended with the tight ends. But I thought we really touched on pretty much everything. Zach was really, really sharp tonight and brought some really, really good insights onto the show.
Thank you, guys.
Yep, absolutely.
Dan, did you want to bring in any animals to compete with?
Well, honest to God, I kept thinking that my cat I kept thinking my cat had wandered into Zach's screen, because my cat has the exact same coloration and markings and everything. I mean, it's like it's crazy.
We'll have to get like a side by side. We'll do it in DMs and then we'll tweet it out. Do like a side by side.
There we go.
Here you go, guys. Here you go. Here's the other one. Just
Oh, here's the other one.
Oh yeah.
There you go. There you go.
Yeah, she needs a diet, but she's all right.
Guys, tonight was a fun show. We seem to, we don't do it on purpose, so we apologize if we kept you guys long, but obviously by the comments and just people participating tonight, you guys were enjoying the goodness that we were dropping, especially our boy Zach Krueger. Remind the people, I mean, dude, your goodness is in all the best places. Let's put it that way. So just remind them where that is. Remind them where you can find anything else or anything else you have coming up. Just drop it right here.
Sure. Yeah, no, I appreciate it. Thanks, first of all, guys, for having me on here. A lot of fun doing this show. Super cool crew here. Lots of laughs, lots of fun. So definitely the most fun I've had on a podcast, probably. Podcast or live stream for that matter. That includes my own as well. So thank you for having me on. You can find me on Twitter at ZK_FFP. You can check out my articles on Rotoviz and 4for4. I have admittedly been slacking on the articles just a little bit because I just kind of busy with some other stuff, but articles will be definitely live and running during the regular season. I have not been slacking on my live stream. That's something I've been trying to actually ramp up a little bit as we get closer to the season. That is Roster Lock, a best ball show over on the Rotoviz YouTube channel. Tomorrow I will have Denny Carter on at 8:30 p.m. I will have Matt Schauf from Draft Sharks on Friday, and I will also have Ian Harditz on August 30th. I don't remember what that is, but August 30th I know is the date for that. So I'm trying to ramp up the guests that are heading into the season. We're just get on there, talk a little bit of best ball shop, usually do an underdog draft or something like that, have some fun. And then outside of that, live streams, articles, Rotoviz, 4for4, and Twitter. If you ever have anything you want to say to me, good or bad, I'm there to listen to it or ignore it. So hopefully not ignore it. Hopefully not ignore it. Hopefully it's something I want to respond to. But yeah, ZK_FFP on Twitter. And thanks again, guys, for having me on. A lot of fun tonight.
Yeah,
That was awesome.
Yep, pleasure was all ours. Sure.
Totally. Pleasure is ours. It's always nice when the goodness that's being dropped on Fantasyland reflects the person behind it. And we've been very fortunate. Doesn't matter if they've won 6 digits, they write for 3 sites or 1 site, or everyone's just been. That's the beauty of Fantasyland, man. Like everybody is just on a good vibe, and you brought that tonight. That's why we went over 2 hours. So we appreciate again you sparing your time and anyone around you that's allowed us to get you for this long. So we appreciate you guys. Smash the like, man. Zach has dropped tons of goodness tonight. We hit best ball, we hit redraft, we hit dynasty, we hit a lot of different components, guys. A bunch of notes on the piano, as we say. Dan, I mean, you're one of the greats. You're one of the wisest. Not to put any pressure, but any closing thoughts, or even if it's just reflecting on what Zach's brought to tonight's show. I just feel like tonight's show was just loaded with goodness.
Yeah, absolutely. I had great energy and great information all the way through. Just really appreciate that. And somebody, I always just really appreciate people who are out there, just drafting their ass off like Zach is. And, because you just learn so much from that. And when you get a chance to compare notes with somebody who's doing that, it's just, it's great for everybody all the way around. So I've been learning as much as everybody else. I like Zach's approach to the game. And so thanks for coming on.
Yeah,
cheers,
absolutely. Dan. And we had that, we had that video draft that just went live too, correct? Both.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, that was awesome.
Can someone pump that out?
Actually, let's. So guys, check out Billy Musio. Check out Fantasy Data. Basically, what Billy put together. Again, we talked about earlier. Had an idea and just like acted right away and got some of the best in the game. Put a draft together. Theo, am I good here?
You're good.
Yeah.
All right. Sorry. And just basically did something that not a lot of us that are on this end of the camera or of the production aspect of it would want to do. And he literally just seriously, like for him to ask everybody to comment in a video about the pick and he put everything together. I mean, dude he's awesome in many ways, but that's something that is of huge value to Fantasyland, especially with the people behind it. Theo and Dan, I don't know, you guys are part of it. Anything to add on that?
I mean, just the editing alone on that. Holy cow.
Yeah. Go ahead, Theo.
And Billy's also made it. It's 5 hours long. It's 18 rounds of commented picks, but he's broken down where the video starts for each player on YouTube. So you can go search, and if you want to hear the drafter of Derrick Henry, you don't have to watch the picks before. You can fast forward right to Derrick Henry. So it's about as user friendly as you can get for a 5 hour video. And there were some tremendous drafters drafting against one another. Zach had a team. Dan, JD, and I split a team. Abib Agbatoba, the winner of last year's football guys.
First and 15th guys.
Yeah, first and 15 guys were in there. You had the Draft Sharks guys in there. Really, really. I mean, you had some tremendous drafters sharing their insights, and we're also competing. Each of us put money into it and are competing for $100,000. Most likely, the champion does not come from this draft, but we were certainly going for it, and it was a great process for us to be a part of. And Billy definitely deserves a lot of credit for getting everybody together. Great guy, great drafter, and really, really good content producer as well.
Yeah, definitely. Big shout out to Billy for that. It's a pretty killer video for 5.5 hours or whatever it is of footage. Absolutely insane. Also, a quick shout out to his name on Twitter is xdeath_dealersx.
Yes.
I think he's more of a fantasy content fan than he is a creator. But he also
drafts in the FFPC. He's Death Dealers he's been doing a lot of 125 entries in FFPC.
Yeah, he does. He's a super cool guy. I actually had a chance to meet him at the Fantasy Expo, and his name is Hillard. For those of you who maybe don't know, I hope he doesn't mind me sharing his first name. I don't know his last name, but his name is Hillard. He's a super cool guy, super nice guy. We met him at the Expo, and the crew I was hanging out with that night, Hillard would not let us buy a beer. So I just wanted to even just really quick hat tip to him real quick for just being a cool guy who threw us a good idea, who let us make 5.5 hours worth of content for people to consume and have some fun with. And Hillard, if you're listening, it was an awesome meeting you at the Expo, and really appreciate you just contributing to an awesome idea, for being so generous at the Expo the other day. So shout out to you for that. I'd hate to discuss this and leave you out of it. So hat tip to you for that as well, man.
I was going to tell Theo and Dan to throw like his Twitter handle on there so everybody can follow him and stuff. But now that you mentioned like free beer and fantasy football all in one dude, I don't know. Dan, not a good idea. Don't post it, right?
Because I need to get free beer again next year.
Right.
I don't want to run him dry on free beer money.
Yeah, definitely not.
He sounds like John McGlynn, but like with like a bankroll, just ready to share with the people.
Yeah, he's a really cool guy.
All right, guys. Tonight was a ton of fun, a ton of goodness. We joke a lot, but again, we appreciate Zach for hanging out with us tonight over 2 hours. And kudos to you guys, man. You guys hung out with us, literally. The people in the chat that are watching the live stream, we appreciate you guys. If you're not watching the live stream, maybe you got this on your podcast platform. Make sure you check out the YouTube channel, subscribe, smash the like. We're on here on the regular. I kind of skipped a beat earlier talking about it because I'm not used to Dan, all this goodness. I mean, we got Andrew and Theo dropping the $500,000 Billies. We did a $500,000 Billy last night with a 350 buy-in for the 500 on the Football Guys Championships on FFPC. Like, we got live drafts going. We got the top end guests that you can find anywhere when it comes to analysts, when it comes to players, when it comes to winners, when it comes to guys who have won $750,000 playing fantasy football, guys. I mean, where else are you going to find it? It's right here, guys. Make sure you check us out with the subscribe button, with the like. Theo, why don't you give me a quick one or two? I know I'm putting you on the spot. I do it every week. Maybe you'll catch on eventually. But let the people, dude. You've been bringing in such goodness. Let the people know. Give them a sneak peek. Don't give them the whole they don't want to see the whole scene. Just like peek through the curtain. Something coming up in the next little bit out here in the GOAT District.
We have some great guests lined up for basically the next month. Scott Pianowski from Yahoo comes on next week. We have Matt Modica, who's a tremendous high stakes player in the NFFC streets in baseball and in football. Is coming on in September. and we're lining them up. Dan and I are splitting a main event team in Las Vegas. I'm sure we're gonna do a recap show on that. Dan and I have another main event team coming up on September 5th that we're splitting. So we're drafting. We're bringing on some great guests, and we're grinding. It's almost the season now, so it's crunch time for us.
Yep, yeah, absolutely.
And we say it often, guys. We're walking the walk. We're drafting the drafts. We're in no draft rooms. Check us out, myffpc.com. You want to rock some GOAT gear or any kind of fantasy type of gear. You want to support your favorite, podcast show. Go check out ViridianGlobal.com. Dynasty Depot. Go check that out. They got some exciting stuff going on right now, especially with the FFPC live drafts, which we didn't even mention. Dan and Theo going to represent the district out there in Vegas. I'm just super jelly over here because, me crossing the border, especially I got like one of my shots is an AstraZeneca. I'm like an outcast now. Like, I don't even think I could. I don't even think it counts. I don't even think it counts. Dan, I might call you about buying a lake house because it doesn't look like I'm leaving this country for a long time. So, just kind of saying. But no, in all seriousness, guys, Dynasty Depot, we haven't mentioned it in a bit, and it's not because it's not important. McNamara Dynasty just drops serious goodness, especially if you're in a dynasty on a regular basis. Guys, keep tuning in. We mentioned, Andrew AMS Schellenberg with Theo dropping the $500,000 billies. We got John McGlynn dropping the commissioner evaluation. We're dropping GOAT districts on the regular. The guests are pounding. Make sure you tune in on the regular if you want to win your leagues right now. Anything to add, guys? I don't know. Right now, it's kind of like how we do it every week. We appreciate the goodness. We appreciate you checking in. Smash the like. Make sure you tune in. Good luck, and we'll check you all later.
GOAT district, the Pope listens. Dynasty, our religion, for the blokes missing. On all of these trades, on all of these plays, on all of these grades. By the end of the day, y'all getting played. So, what you gonna do next? Try to fill up that flex? Send the homie a text. That trash offer's the best. You try to make it complex, then they text you back. Now all of a sudden, they don't make any sense. Broaden your horizons, boy. Dynasty's not for the Simons, boy. These trades not for consignment, boy. Respect your opponent, y'all some piranhas, boy. This my advice, from me to you. Open up your cute little podcast queue. Search up GOAT District, my dude. Pop it in your ear, man, y'all know what to do. It's the... And I always be traded. And I always be traded. And I always be trading. Y'all try to betray them, but first you gotta bait them. Fish.